Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Hit the Pacecar here on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate a like, follow, comment, subscribe, share, do whatever you need to do. And here we are on a Tuesday afternoon. You're probably seeing this on Wednesday, post the Brickyard 400. And of course, I'm joined by the Pacecar boys, my co-hosts of Cory and Tyler. Cory, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Got a lot of rest in over the weekend. Got, my daily nap in during the race, this weekend. So life's good. Rested up.
Begin to sound like Tommy Baldwin. Tommy Baldwin would be talking about his stage 2 nap. It sounds like Cory had a stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3 nap. Actually, no. Cory was probably wide awake in stage 1 because Kyle Larson was doing well. The moment Larson wrecked, did you just like go to the pillow and go like,
Yep, 100%. After he wrecked, I'm like, well, there goes my pick. And they're not passing anyway. So I turned it on for like the last 25 laps and then watched the highlight video today and didn't miss really anything.
Yeah, there was. We'll talk about the Cup Series race because I hated the race, and I think we all didn't really like the race. I mean, I think we all liked the winner, but we didn't really like the race, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later. And Cory, I got to say once again, every time you wear that hat, I love that hat. That's like one of the coolest hats I've ever seen. Anytime you wear it, I got to compliment it. I feel like it.
I appreciate it, man. It's my favorite hat right now for sure.
No, it's dope. I also just love the movie Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick, so that just plays into it even more for me. But Tyler, how are we doing today? You have a badass hat too.
Yeah, it's just the Budweiser hat. Ain't nothing special.
Budweiser Shootout may be coming back. We talked about that. Is that why we're wearing it?
That it is. That's why we're wearing it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and that's something we need to talk about here today. That I also forgot to put in the notes is that Daytona sounds like they're getting the Clash again. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But before we do all that, of course, we got to go through the Trucks, O'Reilly Series, and the Cup Series weekends in Indianapolis. The Trucks were at IRP. But before we go through the events, I do want to go through the top 10 results and the points update from the weekend, starting with the top 10 results from the weekend in the Truck Series. You had Lane Riggs just put on a dominating performance in first, Connor Mozak with a great performance in second, Ty Majeski third, Chandler Smith fourth, and then Nick Sanchez rounding out your top five. In sixth, you had Stuart Friesen, Stewie. In seventh, you had Caden Honeycutt. And then in eighth, a very impressive performance by the super Italian of Gavin Bocelli. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I never heard of him before this weekend, and he put on a hell of a performance for Tricon. In ninth, you had Tyler Ankrum. And then in 10th, you have the Ram Race for the Seat alumni himself of Michael Christopher Jr. And a lot of people talk so highly about Michael Christopher Jr., and he really showed it on Friday night. And then we look ahead to Saturday at the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. We had Carson Quaffle get his first career win and also piss off Indianapolis Motor Speedway by doing a burnout over the bricks. And we'll talk about all that a little bit later. Justin Allgaier putting some late pressure on his teammate in second. Same thing with Ross the Boss Chastain in third. And then Chase Elliott in fourth. You had a 1, 2, 3, 4 for Junior Motorsports. A big weekend for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and his whole team. In fifth, you had William Sawalich rounding out the top five. In sixth, you had Brent Cruz. Seventh, you had Corey Day. Eighth, Sheldon Creed, who was leading early. Ninth, you have Brandon Jones. And then rounding out your top 10 is Austin Hill. And then we look ahead to the NASCAR Cup Series. Corey Heim, career win number 2, and we'll talk about that more later. Second place, Christopher Bell. Third, Smokin' Joey Logano on a little bit of a hot streak. Fourth, we have Chase Briscoe. Rounding out your top 5, you had Dennis the Menace, Denny Hamlin. In sixth, you had Brad Keselowski. A much-needed good run in seventh for Josh Berry. Eighth, going to Ryan Preece, a very questionable call by his crew chief. Ryan Preece honestly could have won this race. Ninth, you had Carson Hocevar, who, if he didn't get held up by Heim, he might have won this race. And we'll talk more about Hocevar later. And then rounding out your top 10, you have Tyler Reddick. And then we look at the points update from all 3 series. In the Truck Series, the regular season championship battle is pretty much over. Lane Riggs with 716 points on the year. Caden Honeycutt is 100 points back. And then Lane Riggs' teammate Chandler Smith, 153 points back. And then we look at the bubble battle. 7th in the standings, 308 points back of Riggs is Ben Rhodes. 8th in the standings is Grant Infinger, 325 back. 9th in the standings is 337 back, and that is Daniel Hemrick. And then on the bubble, you have Stuart Friesen, 343 back of Lane Riggs. And then just outside the cut line, you have Tyler Ankrum, 8 points back. And then Jake Garcia, 12th in the standings, 32 points back of Stuart Friesen. And then we look at the O'Reilly Series points. Justin Allgaier already locked up the regular season championship. First in the standings, 1,016 points. And second in the standings, you have Carson Quaffle, who's moved up to second, 265 points back of his teammate Allgaier. And then third in the standings, you have Jesse Love, 269 points back of Allgaier. And then we look at the bubble battle. 9th in the standings, you have Parker Retzloff, 397 points back of Lil Gator. 10th in the standings, you have Sam Mayer, 427 points back. And then you have a couple of Gibbs cars right here at the cut line battling it out. You have Brent Cruz, 11th in the standings, 443 points behind Justin Allgaier. And then only 7 points above the cut line and only 6 points behind Brent Cruz is Taylor Gray on the cut line in 12th. And then his teammate William Sawalich, 7 points outside of the chase at the moment in 13th. And then 14th is Raja Karuth, 20 points behind Taylor Gray. And then for the O'Reilly Series and the Truck Series, there's only 2 more races until we start the chase for the Cup. And then we look at the Cup Series. Denny Hamlin leading the standings with 886 points. Now he has a full race advantage on Tyler Reddick, 84 points back. A couple months ago, who would have predicted that? And then third in the standings, you have Ryan Blaney, 120 points back of Denny Hamlin. All 3 are still eligible to win this in-season championship. Then 13th in the standings, one of the hottest drivers. If I had made power rankings, Logano would be near the top because he's had a hot couple of weeks, moving up to 13th in the standings, 341 points behind Dennis. 14th in the standings, you have Bubba Wallace, 345 points behind his team owner of Denny Hamlin. 15th in the standings, you have Shane Van Gisbergen, 349 points back of Denny Hamlin. And then on the bubble, on the cut line, 16th in the standings, you have Austin Cindric, 368 points back. And then 17th in the standings, 38 points behind Cindric, got to make up a little bit of ground, is Ryan Preece. And then 18th, 44 points back, is that Jones boy of Eric Jones. And then the Cup Series only has 4 races until the chase for the Cup begins. All right, now that we're done with the top 10 results and the points update, let's get into the racing that we saw this weekend, starting with the Craftsman Truck Series. And honestly, not a lot to talk about with this race. Some impressive performances, of course, from Gavin and Michael Christopher Jr., which really impressed me, both of them. I think both of them potentially have a bright future. I haven't seen enough from either of them yet, but I've heard a lot of great things about Michael Christopher Jr., and Gavin really surprised me the other night. So I think those are probably decent talking points. But the big talking point is just Lane Riggs. Lane Riggs just dominates the field once again. Lane Riggs has just had a phenomenal season in the Truck Series. Every once in a while, it looks like Chandler Smith and Caden Honeycutt are right there in the battle with Riggs, but I just don't know if anybody has anything for Lane Riggs when it comes to the championship this year. I'm going to ask Tyler about this first. Tyler, Lane Riggs just put a dominating performance at Indianapolis Raceway Park this past weekend, and he's clearly the championship favorite in my eyes. Just how impressive is Lane Riggs right now?
And it's beyond impressive. Dude's absolutely killing it. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He's taking everybody's ass and just whipping it. Like, we'd have a little bit of this out of him this year, but not to this level. But I know he's Justin and Hamlin level right now, and it's came out of nowhere.
Yeah, Lane Riggs has just really put an ass whooping on this field, because I'm not surprised that Lane Riggs is the championship favorite, but I definitely expected, for example, Caden Honeycutt to be more competitive with him. And it's not like Honeycutt's doing a bad job. Honeycutt's doing a great job. He's second in the standings, but it's just no one could really keep up with Lane Riggs this year. Lane Riggs is doing well pretty much anywhere we go, whether it's a road course, a short track, intermediate. Seems like anywhere we go, Lane Riggs is the truck to beat pretty much every single week, unless Cory Heim's in the field, then he's second. Then he's second out of the trucks to beat. But Cory, how impressive is what Lane Riggs doing right now?
He's been absolutely dominant. Like, He has 5 wins through 16 starts, and a couple of those starts you had Cup drivers racing in it. You had Corey Heim racing in it. Like, you had elite talent racing in the series, and he still has 1/3 of the wins in that series right now. And what he did on Friday was, like, insane. He dominated, won all 3 stages, had, what, I think 13 cars on the lead lap, had 16, 2 lap there's only 16 cars that were 2 laps down. Everyone else was 3 laps down. Like, he absolutely crushed the field. It wasn't even close.
No one could really keep up with Lane Riggs. Lane Riggs just whooped up the field at IRP. I just I don't know who could really be that challenger. I've been thinking all year that Honeycutt's been my pick to win the championship all year, and I'm beginning to just really have those second thoughts because Lane Riggs is really beginning to separate himself at this point. There, like I said, there were points this year where I thought Chandler Smith was a legitimate championship contender. Same thing with Honeycutt, and they've proven throughout the year that they are capable of winning a championship at the Truck Series level. But Lane Riggs, Lane Riggs, in my opinion, has outgrown the truck almost at this point. He's just he deserves to move up, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later on his opportunities to potentially move up, or maybe he should stay in his truck. And we'll talk about that more later. But he just looks dominant. I don't know if anybody has anything for him, but let us know your thoughts in the comments. Lane Riggs, a dominating season so far, championship leader, hasn't locked up the in-season championship quite yet, but he might be able to lock it up after the next race. All right, this will let us move on now to the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, where we had a first-time winner, long overdue. Been waiting on this guy to win for a while, and luckily he got a win this year. Because if he didn't win a race this year, talking about Carson Quaffle, I don't know if he would have gotten back in the car next year. I don't know if he would have any more opportunities after that, because sponsorship and the way NASCAR works now. Dale Jr. That's why we saw a lot of emotion out of Dale Earnhardt Jr. because Jr. has seen Carson Quaffle and his younger brother Caden Quaffle race for so many years, and he put his own money, he put his neck out for Carson Quaffle, very similar to what he did for Josh Berry. So he's very invested, and you saw it on his face. Jr. was crying. He was literally crying. He was very emotional at the end of this race. Carson Quaffle seemed a little bit emotional as well. It was a great moment for Carson. His dad, Travis Quaffle, who I remember racing for many years in the Truck Series amongst a couple of Cup and O'Reilly Series starts here and there. I think he raced full-time in Cup for actually front row for a little bit there, actually, if I remember correctly, in probably a Taco Bell Long John Silver's car or something like that. But he was around for a long time, and it was cool to see him have the emotion that he did, even though he wasn't at the racetrack. He was watching it on his phone at the Hampton Heats. And that same night, his other boy, Caden Quaffle, who he was crew chiefing for that night, ended up winning at the Hampton Heats. So congratulations to the whole Quaffle family, who had a hell of a day. And I would include Jr. in that, because on that day, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was a Quaffle. That was Dale Earnhardt Quaffle Jr. that day. Like, that was awesome. It was awesome to see him win. He did the burnout over the bricks, which we'll break down a little bit. We'll break down that in particular part in a second. But I want to get the boys' first thoughts on the first win for Carson Quaffle. And I want to talk to Tyler first on this, because Tyler, we saw Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s emotion. We saw how he handled this victory. You could tell that this win meant a lot to Junebug. It also meant a lot to Carson Quaffle, coming from somebody who I consider myself a fan of Carson Quaffle. Been watching him for a number of years now. And I think this was just a great moment for not just Dale Earnhardt Jr., not just for Carson Quaffle, but also for grassroots racers across the country. Very similar to what happened with Josh Berry. So what are your thoughts on this, being the Dale Jr. super fan that you are?
I mean, anytime anything's good for Dale, it's good for us. And at the end of the day, Dale put his absolute heart and soul into those kids. Like, there's no ends of the earth that he didn't go to make sure that those kids had a ride and they had everything they needed to succeed. So you know that anytime that he actually feels like somebody's worthy of his time, is actually worthy of his time, that it's life changing for Dale. Dale loves racing more than anything else, but or I'm not gonna say more than anything else, because Dale loves the people in racing more than anything else, really. Dale loves racing, but he knows that it makes people to make it happen. So whether it be broadcasting team to the racers to everybody else that makes everything happen, Dale loves everybody. But his racers and the people he believes in are what matters most. And Carson, he truly believed in, and you could see it on his face that that was the moment. And escape running being run down by Justin is absolutely that time, especially this year. So that's all proven on that track.
Yeah, the ability to hold off Justin Allgaier, Lil Gator, who was chomping at the bit at the end of that race, I think is kind of just a little cherry on top. Like, you just held off the best driver in not just the O'Reilly series, but probably the hottest driver in the whole sport right now, in Justin Allgaier. So that has to be a little cherry on top. And yeah, Dale Jr. Racing's his life. These people are his life, and that's just what it is. He's so invested in it. He has so much love and passion for it. I was even telling my dad at the end of this race, there's not really much in the world I like seeing more than Dale Jr. happy. I love seeing Dale Jr. happy. I love seeing him smiling and laughing, and tears of joy that we saw on Saturday, because that guy invests more time and effort in this sport than probably anybody else, which says a lot, because there's a lot of important people in this sport. I don't know if there's anybody that puts more work in and is more passionate about this sport than Dale Earnhardt Jr. So that was great for him, and just overall great for grassroots racing and Carson Quaffle. I think this might open up the door for more wins for Carson Quaffle. I've said something very similar about Brent Cruz when he gets that first win. I'm surprised that hasn't happened with Honeycutt. I was expecting Honeycutt to maybe knock out some more wins. I was expecting that the floodgates to open for him in the Truck Series. Sometimes these first career wins just open up the floodgates. So maybe there's a lot more wins down the path for Carson Quaffle. Cory, what are your thoughts on all this? Carson Quaffle getting the win. We'll talk about the burnout on the bricks in a second, but what are your thoughts on Carson Quaffle getting his first career win and Dale Jr.'s reaction about it? And what does this do for grassroots racers?
Well, I think that was easily the best race of the weekend. You had comers and goers. You had different people leading throughout the race that held the lead for a while. Um, yeah, the racing on Saturday was awesome, and then seeing Carson Quaffle get that win, seeing Junior Motorsports get the 1 through 4, like it's. I don't think you can be a NASCAR fan or a true NASCAR fan and not like Dale Jr. and not like what he's doing for the sport and not root for him and be excited to see him on your screen and like be emotional. Like that was awesome. Like I'm indifferent on Carson Quaffle. I root for him because he's not a person. He hasn't given me a reason not to root for him. And obviously with the grassroots background and like all of that, that's even more reason to root for him. But I've been indifferent on him. And seeing him get his first win, anybody getting their first win's awesome. That was awesome. Seeing Junior's emotion and everything that it meant to him and like it and like what Tyler said, like when drivers work at or are part of the Junior Motorsports, like you're part of Dale Jr.'s family. Like Justin Allgaier to me is like his little brother, and all of those kids are like his kids in a way. Like when Sammy Smith made that mistake a couple of years ago at Martinsville, he embraced him. He talked about it. He talked about learning and like seeing Carson Quaffle get this win. You see how much it means to him. He said he's like a son to me. Like this, it's a family over there. So like seeing it like that, seeing him like that is awesome for the sport, and it's awesome for Carson Quaffle.
Yeah, it's great for the sport to have drivers like Carson Quaffle winning, not just because he races for Dale Jr., but because of his background and the stuff that he's had to do to get to that level. He doesn't have a lot of money behind him. His money behind him is Dale Earnhardt Jr., so that's really great for Carson and really great for that whole entire race team getting the 1, 2, 3, 4. And what a moment getting your first career win at the Brickyard. There's not many places that you'd probably want your first career win at to be at more than Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Like that's awesome in itself. It's such a historic place. It's probably the most well-known racetrack in the entire world, except for maybe a couple you can maybe argue with. But just great moment for Carson Quaffle, for Dale Earnhardt Jr., Junior Motorsports, and for grassroots racing. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Carson Quaffle getting his first career O'Reilly Auto Parts Series win, and it comes at the Brickyard of all places on Saturday. All right, in that celebration, Carson Quaffle, it looked like he was avoiding the bricks for the most part, but then at the very end, he ended up doing a little burnout over the bricks, and I saw them cleaning up the bricks after the race and everything, and there was a huge deal about it. A lot of people talking a lot of crap, a lot of like, "Oh man, you're an idiot. Why'd you drive over the bricks?" Like everybody knows not drive over the bricks, and like stuff like that. And it's like, it's the guy's first win, and it comes at Indianapolis. I think he should be allowed to do pretty much whatever he wants. I understand the bricks are historic, and we don't want to risk damaging the bricks. I do understand that. So I would like for people to avoid the bricks, yes. But if he gets lost, if you get lost in the moment, burning it down, your first career win, I don't. It is what it is. Like, don't shame the guy. He got his first career win, and the first thing, probably one of the first things he saw on social media, he was expecting to go on social media and say, "Oh, everybody's so happy about my win," and then he goes on social media and sees that everybody's bitching that he ran over the bricks of all things, and it's just like I said. I understand the bricks are historic. We do want to maintain the bricks as best we could. We don't have to clean them and do all this stuff. So I agree on the fact that, yeah, drivers should avoid doing burnouts and donuts and leaving skid marks on the bricks. I do agree with that, but there is also getting lost in the moment. First career win, and it comes at Indianapolis of all places, and just forgetting where you're at. And Corey Heim, he said in his, I forget who he was talking with, but he went out of his way to avoid the bricks. That's why he stopped the burnout where he did, because he was well aware. But at the same time, it's your moment. It's your moment. You do with it what you please. Like, look at Hocevar. Hocevar said in the press conference after he got his pole that if he won the race, he had things planned that would really piss off Roger Penske. So he didn't want to say it right then and there what he was going to do. I kind of wanted Hocevar to win on Sunday just to see what he was going to do. But yeah, I just think people are making too big of a deal about it. Like I said, I understand maintaining the bricks; they're historic, but I just think this is getting blown way out of proportions. I think this is a discussion almost every year when we go to the Brickyard, that we're not supposed to drive over the bricks and stuff like that. But Cory, what are your thoughts on this, Cory, about the burnout over the bricks with Carson Quaffle? How do you feel about him doing the burnout over the bricks? What do you think about the backlash that's come from it?
Like, I kind of feel the exact same as you, to be honest. Like, it was an honest to God mistake, because I think he knew going in. I think at least drivers should know going in. But I mean,
They do.
it's your first win. It's, like, it's iconic. The bricks are the iconic part, and I don't think he was even thinking about the bricks when he was doing his burnout. And like, I get the reason for like maintaining the track. You don't want the bricks to get ruined. But like, as you saw in the videos and pictures later, they just had crews scrubbing the track, right? And like, I don't know. I think it's just a small mistake, slap on the wrist. Not even like a slap on the wrist. You know what I mean? It's just, don't do it again, please, and move on. Like, that's all it really is. Like, yeah, I know. Other than that, that's my whole opinion on it. I'm like, he got his win. Last thing he cares about is the bricks. And honestly, if there's any backlash on it, it's just, hey, don't do that again, please. But congrats. That's really all it should be. All it was to me.
Yeah, that's really all it should be. And there was definitely some people that had that reaction online and stuff like that. One thing I thought about when you were talking there, like, what if they came up with some sort of arrangement if you end up doing a burnout over the bricks and you leave skid marks, the pit crew, the driver, they're the ones that have to scrub it. And if they don't, then they get like a big fine or something like that. Like, I don't know how big the fine, but I think that might be a way to do it or something. But then at that point, every race, they're all burning out over the bricks, and then the bricks get worn out. So I don't know. I don't really know how to fix this problem, because it's not a problem with the Indy cars, because IndyCar, they don't do burnouts. They don't do stuff like that in Indy cars. This is a stock car sort of thing. So yeah, I just think I got too blown out of proportions by some parts of the internet and by some personalities as well. I just thought it got too blown out of proportion, in my opinion. But Tyler, how do you feel about all this? The burnout on the bricks?
I don't know. The purist in me can understand where everybody's pissed about it, because, like, again, it's like you said, it's something that's talked about every single year. Don't do it. So if you don't know about it, you're either ignorant or you're just not listening.
Or you're
And
Noah Gregson?
Or Noah Gregson and you can't read. So it's one of these things that, like, I don't know, I'm not mad at him for it, but like you said, maybe been out there with the crew scrubbing it down to like show his apology to it. I don't know. It's hard because at the same time you don't want that. That's not necessary. Please don't burn down on the bricks. But you said first win, man. Those kids are excited. Those kids don't know if they're ever gonna get another win again in their lives. So they're excited to have that win and they're celebrating it. So it's hard to get somebody to think about that in that moment, but you just kind of have to when you're at a place like that. You have to keep those kind of things in mind.
Yeah, I agree. And if it was somebody like, oh, I accidentally pressed the wrong thing there. And yeah, if it was somebody like Justin Allgaier got the win and he burned it down on the bricks, then I would have been like, all right, I can understand everybody getting mad. Justin Allgaier's been here, done that. He's won a bunch of races. He's been around a long time. You know, okay, I understand you getting mad. But Carson Quaffle, he's never won a... Honestly, if I'm in that situation and I get my first win, it's at fucking Indianapolis, and I have Dale Earnhardt Jr. coming over the radio congratulating me and stuff. Oh, I'm blacking out. I'm blacking out. I'm doing everything. I'm climbing the fence. I'm doing everything. I'm probably falling off the fence. You know, I'm doing everything. You know, I'm doing everything. You know, first career win comes at Indianapolis. Yeah, I just think he needs to be cut a little bit of a break. And I like the idea I came up with. If you do end up burning it down over the bricks, the crew, they're the ones that have to scrub it. I like that idea, but at the same time, then maybe every NASCAR race at that point, they're going to be like, yeah, go burn it over the bricks. We'll clean it up afterwards, you know. And I don't really want that either, you know. So I don't know. I don't know what to be necessarily done about it. I just think that everybody should cut Carson Quaffle a break and just congratulate him on his first win, because that was an awesome performance and it's long overdue. We've been waiting on this first win for Carson Quaffle for a while now. I think he should have gotten it maybe a couple of different times at this point, and he finally gets the job done, and it comes at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How did you feel about the burnout over the bricks? Is there any solutions that you can come up with, or should people just stay off the bricks? Let us know your thoughts about all that in the comments. All right, let's move on to the NASCAR Cup Series. As we did have a race. Cory might have slept through it, but we did have a race called the Brickyard 400 this past weekend. Or for Kyle Larson, it was the Brickyard 112, is what I'm hearing. That's what I've been hearing. But overall, worst race of the season, in my opinion. I don't know if everybody has the same opinion as me, but it was the worst race of the season. I'm a big fan of the Brickyard 400. I want it to stay on the schedule, so don't be going to the pressers like people want the Brickyard 400 off the schedule because it was a bad race. I think we all still want the Brickyard 400 on the schedule because it just means so much. Winning at the Indianapolis Road Course doesn't mean nearly as much as winning on the Oval. It's historic. It's a crown jewel event. So we need to figure out a way to make the racing better. And then some people are always gonna say as well that Indianapolis has always been tough to pass at in the Cup Series, and it has. It's always been very tough to pass at in the Cup Series. That's why it's never necessarily been a fan favorite sort of event, because you do get comers and goers here and there, but it's a lot more difficult to pass with it not being really a multi-groove racetrack. You can't really go. I mean, you can go side by side in the corners, but it's very difficult there compared to a lot of other racetracks. So it's always been difficult to pass. But from what we saw on Sunday, I would say in the first bit of that race, I don't know how much of that race, but the first bit of that race, I think I saw a bit of passing. But once more and more rubber got stuck to the racetrack, I just didn't see it. I didn't see a lot of tire fall off from that point forward. I didn't see a lot of passing. It was pretty much impossible to pass during that race. Nobody could pass, whether you had a huge tire advantage or not. It was almost impossible to pass the entire race. I felt bad for TNT, it being TNT's last race. They were cutting to commercial a lot more than probably they were wanting or hoping for. I mean, probably not wanting, because they probably made more money off of that. But you hear what I'm saying. They probably wanted to keep it and to talk about action, but there wasn't really anything going on. It was, in my opinion, the worst race of the season. And I don't think there's really a question about it for me. But I'm curious on what the boys think about this. Cory, I know you probably slept through a lot of this race, but What did you think about the Brickyard 400, and where would you rank it amongst the races that we've seen this season? And I don't know how they fix this really, unless they get a whole new car. I don't see this changing unless they just get a whole new car.
Man, okay, I didn't sleep through it. I just chose not to watch a third to two-thirds of it. But the man, it definitely was the worst race of the season, like TV wise, fan perspective wise. Like unless you're a diehard Corey Heim fan, which I think all of us like Corey Heim, so we're happy with the result. But like that was you could literally have fallen asleep and I feel like not missed a thing really. Like it just was a boring race. And that I think a lot of that like I feel like some people's argument is that well that's what Indy is. Indy's a strategy race. Yes. We love that fact about Indy. Indy is awesome. Indy should stay. The Brickyard 400 should stay. But they need to make it to where they can pass somehow. Like the O'Reilly race wasn't the best race we've seen all year, but it was by far a million times better than what we saw on Sunday. There was no passing on Sunday. And that's all we're asking is like keep it a strategy race. We want it to be a strategy race, but we want it to have comers and goers, have some people pass. Like Corey Heim blocked Christopher Bell and Joey Logano for 20 laps. I turned it on with 23 to 25 laps to go and nothing changed. And that's the problem. Like, we love the Brickyard 400. It should stay. But they need to do something to make it to where people can actually pass there. Not make it the easiest passing ever. We're not expecting that. But what Denny said last year, they had 8 passes, I think, throughout the whole race, 8 or 9.
Something like
Like,
that.
they should have done something to change that this race. And then clearly, like, it's got a 20% rank on Jeff Gluck's poll, like 20% liked it. Like, that's awful. They need to do something, and Denny even was start talking about like raise the back of the car, lower the front of the car, like make it to where we can use air to our advantage from being behind someone. Like they need to do that at every track. Like this car is a problem in what we're 4, 5, 6 years into it now. Like, come on. Like this shouldn't be happening at an iconic race.
Yeah, it was just disappointing to see. Um, and I've gave a lot of praise to Goodyear this year, but I think Goodyear is probably one of the only companies or people that could really at least make it somewhat better, provide a lot of tire fall off. Because I thought at the very beginning of this race, I noticed tire fall off at the beginning of this race. And I guess it was more rubber got stuck to the track or whatever it was. And then the tires just really didn't fall off at all the rest of the race. Because I'm pretty sure on that last run, Heim was on 2 tires, if I remember correctly. I think he was on 2 tires that whole entire last run. I remember with 25 laps to go, Christopher Bell got within like 3 or 4 tenths of Heim, and my dad's like, "Yeah, Christopher Bell is gonna pass him now. He's gonna pass him within the 5 laps." And I'm like, the only way he's gonna pass him is if Heim makes some sort of mistake, and that's just Bell couldn't even get close enough to make a move. Heim made one mistake with like 3 laps left, and Bell feinted left a little bit, and all Heim needed to do was give him a little bit of dirty air, and Bell fell right back to 3/4 tenths again. And and that's why we saw Hocevar not able to get past Heim, even though Hocevar had way fresher tires and was the faster car. He couldn't even really get close enough to move him out of the way if he wanted to. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it's not Indianapolis's fault. That's why I don't want the Brickyard 400 to go anywhere. And like you made a very good point there, Cory, like this is a strategy race. It's supposed to be a strategy race. It's supposed to be difficult to pass. It's Indy, it's a lot of those things are true, but it's not supposed to be impossible to pass. It's not supposed to be impossible to do these things without someone making some sort of error or a mistake. Because at the end of that race, Joey Logano was freaking flying. He was way faster than both of them. To be fair, that's because Bell was getting held up by Heim. But any other racetrack, well, not any other racetrack, but any other car, Logano is passing both of them and winning that race. He just is. And it's just, I'm happy Heim won because I like Heim. I'm a big fan of Corey Heim. It's cool to see him get his second career win. 23-11, wins 2 straight at the Brickyard 400, which we'll talk about more in a second. But that racing there was no racing. I was about to say the racing was atrocious, but for the racing to be bad, there needs to actually be racing, and there wasn't really any. Tyler, give me a break here. What did you think about this race? I don't know if I would put this as the worst Brickyard 400 of all time, just because you know what I'm about to say, that when we had the Goodyears fall apart after 10 laps all those years ago in like 2008 or 2009 or whatever, that was the worst race in not just Indianapolis history, but the worst race in the history of NASCAR, probably. Goodyear are still paying for that to this day, I would say. A lot of trust issues there. But what did you think about this race we saw on Sunday?
Absolutely horrific. I mean, this is destroyed the prestige of Indy, and then there's no coming back from it at this point. Like, it was absolutely just atrocious. You have Heim winning his second race of the season because this car is just absolutely trash. He's not better than the two guys that were behind him. I love him. Heim time all the way. I'm so glad he got his full time ride. We rode it so hard for him. All these things, right? But there's no way in hell Heim holds off Joey Logano or Hamlin. Actual, like, this nightmare that they've had fun occasionally, right? But it's not fun for the long run. And unfortunately, major tracks and major events like this are being completely just destroyed, losing every credibility they have because of a shitty car. Like, Indy used to be a great race, a fun time. It used to mean races of the year for me was Brickyard. You have, Cory said, a straight nap, something for me to record. I didn't even rush home on Sunday. I recorded that shit and through the 90% of the race because there's not even passing. You can watch the entire race on 10 times speed and not miss a goddamn thing. So it's really depressing, and hopefully they figure something out. I mean, Goodyear can't be involved. We all know that's a fucking nightmare waiting to happen. So this is the car's problem and they need to figure it out. I don't know how the hell they figure this out. Got to do something because we're getting to the point now that some of the absolute best tracks in NASCAR aren't even worth showing up to.
Yeah, that's
I'll
what.
also say one thing with the Goodyear comment. I also feel like we've given NASCAR too much leeway when it comes to blaming Goodyear, or Goodyear can change the tires, or they need to do something. I'm like, dude, we've done that at every track. We spent the
Goodyear's not a
last 2 years
superhero.
saying, yeah, like we've spent the last 2+ years saying, Goodyear, please save us. We're asking for them to save us. We're not. This is a NASCAR issue, not a Goodyear issue. Like
Not at
that's the
all.
one thing I want to drive, and we were gonna talk about like NASCAR tracks like later, but that's what I wanted to drive with ending this conversation is that like Goodyear. It sucks that we have to keep relying on Goodyear to fix the product because the Brickyard 400 is not worth watching because of the car, not because of the tires.
Yeah, it's not a. Yeah, I want to drive that home too. That this isn't Goodyear's fault or a Goodyear problem, but Goodyear could be the ones to be the savior. But at the same time, we can't expect and hope that Goodyear are going to save us every week when this is a NASCAR problem. A NASCAR, the car, it's the car, it's the next gen car. The next gen car obviously does really well at tracks like Charlotte and Kansas. Like, there's definitely the pros to this next gen car, but you take away a lot of those intermediate tracks everywhere else, whether it's a road course, a short track, a super speedway, which they're trying to make the super speedways better, a track like Pocono or Indianapolis or Michigan even. Michigan, I think it's made a little bit. I think Michigan still does really well, but Pocono and Indy, I think it's made those races even worse a little bit. I would say because strategy's still in there, but it makes it even harder to pass at those tracks when those tracks are already super hard to pass at. Those are two of some of the hardest tracks to pass at. So it's a car problem. It's not Indianapolis's fault. It's not Goodyear. It's definitely not Goodyear's fault because Goodyear have been essentially a superhero, but they're not a superhero. They're a company that makes tires, you know? So now NASCAR need to get this figured out, whether they need to. I've said it for about 2 years now, and I think Tyler was the one that kind of brought it first to my attention. And I agree with him that we need to have a specialty car for each series, or we just need to get a whole new car altogether. One of the two, because this car is perfect for the intermediates, but it's dog shit anywhere else we go. So it's unfortunate because I agree with a lot of Tyler's points there, that it's kind of ruining a lot of our biggest tracks, biggest races, the tracks that we would consider hottest tickets in NASCAR, whether it's because they're just so important or because the racing there is so good, like a Martinsville, for example, or a Bristol. I mean, Bristol has definitely put on some decent races in this car, but that's been because of Goodyear. If Goodyear wasn't there, Bristol would be putting on shit races too, So it just sucks. It sucks to watch. I'm hoping we're able to figure it out, but I don't see a solution coming for this for at least another 2 or 3 years until we decide to get a different car, because this car is just not working out at all. And we're getting a lot of publicity over this last year too, so I think it's very unfortunate that we have this car in this current age where we're actually getting some publicity here and there. So it sucks. It sucks. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How did you feel about the Brickyard 400 this past weekend? I think we're all in agreement that this isn't an Indianapolis problem. This isn't a Goodyear problem. This is a NASCAR problem. And then NASCAR's problem caused potentially the worst race of the season this past weekend. But congratulations to Corey Heim, because we all like Corey Heim. But let us know your thoughts about all that in the comments. All right, let's get away from how bad the race was now and talk about the good, which was Corey Heim getting his second career victory. He had to hold off Christopher Bell and Joey Logano, and the only way him holding him off was pretty much just sending him dirty air. But nonetheless, he didn't really make any mistakes at the end of this race, was able to hold off Christopher Bell and a 3-time champion and Joey Logano to get his second career victory. Gets another win in the 67. It sounds like he's not going to be racing the 67 next year, which is very unfortunate. I think he should drive the 67, but I get it. The meme probably killed it for him. I think the meme killed it personally. That's what it sounds like to me, at least, him saying it's a silly number and stuff. But yeah, it gets 2 wins on the year, and that's a great moment for Heim time. Corey Heim able to. I'm surprised that Jordan wasn't there. I'm surprised Michael Jordan wasn't there, to be honest, it being the Brickyard 400 and everything. And he's went to a lot of races this season, so I was surprised he wasn't there. Damn, like 2 of like the few races that Michael Jordan wasn't at, Heim won both of them. So maybe Jordan shouldn't show up and Heim will win, I guess. I don't know. But Heim time gets the victory. I want to get the boys' thoughts on this. Win number 2 for Corey Heim. I'll start with Tyler. Tyler, Heim time. Corey Heim, driver the number 67, gets his second win of the season, his second win in only 15 starts. Very impressive what he's been able to do. Only the last driver to do that was AJ Foyt. They said that a bunch during the broadcast. Just very impressive what Corey Heim has been able to do. We'll talk about Hocevar a little bit more later. But how do you feel about Corey Heim getting win number 2?
If he stays on this track, he's going to be little Jeff Gordon soon. At this point, I don't know. Next year is going to be scary. Next year is going to be scary, and there's no other way to put that for sure.
Oh, Toyota, like you thought Toyota was kicking ass this year. Wait until next year, and Toyota are on it. And they got Corey Heim, they got Heim time. I like Corey Heim, and he might be a champion someday. He very well might be a Cup Series champion one day in the near future, for Pete's sakes. 2 wins. That's 2 more wins than Bubba Wallace or Riley Herbst have this year. They've been racing all year. I think I saw something where Corey Heim is technically in front of Connor Zilisch in the points, in the Cup Series, owners' points, I should say. But he's in front of Connor Zilisch in points right now, and Connor Zilisch has raced the entire season. Corey Heim he's special, man. Corey Heim, he's special. He's gonna have a great career. He's gonna have a great long career. I've been trying to pinpoint who he reminds me of. I forget who said it on X, so I can't really give the credit because I forgot who said it. But somebody was like, Matt Kenseth. Yeah, he reminds me a lot of Matt Kenseth. I forget who said that, but somebody said that on X, and I saw it, and I'm like, he does. He does remind me a lot of Matt Kenseth. He has a very similar personality. He's not somebody that's going to start beef, but he will pay you back. He'll stand on business. He's one of those. And that was Matt Kenseth. Matt Kenseth wasn't the guy that really is going to start the beef or cause the beef or anything. But if you messed with them, he was going to potentially mess with you back. And even if that's not making any contact, it's just what he says and his quick little quips and stuff like that. Yeah, it definitely reminds me a lot of Matt Kenseth, and him getting that second win is just huge. Corey, how do we feel about this? Heim time, career win number 2.
It's incredible. I think that's the best way to say it. Like, we were praying that he'd have a full-time ride this year in any series, and yet he took the bet on himself to go part-time in all of the series. Actually, I mean, really just trucks and cup. But he's won. He bet on himself and won. Like, he's won 2 races, and even though, like, a lot of it was just the type of track he was at and Booty Barker making awesome calls, but that race was won because he has great etiquette with that car. He knows how to handle the cup car, and yet he has very little experience, and he's not a full-time driver. Like, I think it's, almost negative money in my mind that he is in the chase next year. If he's racing the way he is right now, like, you can put him as a lock for the chase next year, barring crazy circumstances and Connor Zilic-esque luck, you know? But, like, yeah, Heim's incredible, and shout out to Morgan Wallen for winning both Indy races this year, which is insane.
Yeah, that's an insane little thing that I figured out earlier, that Field and Stream is also a Morgan Wallen company. So Morgan Wallen sponsored the Indianapolis 500 winning car and the Brickyard 400 winning car in the same year. That's pretty crazy. Morgan Wallen, come to the motorsports world. They're sending you signs, Morgan, that you should be coming over here to the motorsports world. Maybe he's one of the investors at Legacy Motor Club. I mean, we haven't heard about these celebrity investors. Maybe he's one of those investors. I don't know, because he should get.
It's also Toyota.
It's also Toyota. I just thought about that. Maybe, because we could always use more people in the sport. But Heim time, just what a moment for him, man. Just it is awesome to see. I think months ago, I think we were all kind of questioning what the future may be for Heim. We all saw the talent in Heim, but we all know that this is a sponsorship-driven, money-driven sport before talent. Sponsorship and money both come before talent in this sport, unfortunately. That's just how NASCAR works nowadays. So we were all worried that Heim would maybe not even get an opportunity in a great car. And like you said, Cory, he bet on himself and decided to do part-time in cup, truck, plus do some local short track racing here and there. He bet on himself, and it's working out. He has a full-time ride of 2311 next year. He already has 2 wins in his career coming on, for Pete's sake, the San Diego Coronado Naval Base, and still we don't know, it might come back next year, but from what we know right now, potentially a once-in-a-lifetime experience to race at that track, and he got his first career win there. And then he gets his second career win at a crown jewel, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, for the Brickyard 400. In my opinion, it potentially is the greatest start to a Cup Series career in history. There's an argument to be made. Like, I liked what Tyler had to say. He's becoming like a mini Jeff Gordon, because not even Kyle Busch or Joey Logano came into the sport with this much success that quickly. Jeff Gordon, I would say, was the last one to really do it that quickly. Like, Kyle Busch got a couple wins in his first couple of years. He did a good job. He got a win in his rookie year, and he got a couple more wins in his second year. Logano struggled at the beginning of his career. I think there's been drivers that have came into the Cup Series that Tony Stewart is probably a pretty good example. When Tony Stewart came to the Cup Series, he found some pretty quick success. So it's really hard to accomplish just finding that quick of success at the NASCAR Cup Series level. And Heim, in my opinion, if he's ever on the track, he's somebody you have to look at to potentially win. Whether, like, at this point, you got Tyler Reddick, you got Kyle Larson, you got Christopher Bell, you got Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin. That next one at this point, in my opinion, might already be Corey Heim. It's insane how talented this kid is, and I'm very excited for the future for him and for 2311 racing. So great on Heim time, getting that win. So we'll have to see what happens for the rest of the year for Heim time. I'm not sure what the next race he's racing in, but he might win it. He might win it for all we know. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. Heim time, career win number 2, and it comes in the Brickyard 400. All right, let's talk. Well, actually, right before I actually move on, I do want to get the boys' thoughts. I almost forgot to ask about this. I do want to get the boys' thoughts on Denny Hamlin's move on Heim on the restart. How do we feel about that? I thought it was a good. I wouldn't say it was a good block because he was definitely under him for part of it. In my opinion, if that's anybody else except for Heim or Herbst, any of his drivers, even if that's a teammate, even if that's like Christopher Bell or Chase Briscoe, I think in that situation, if it's almost anybody else, Denny Hamlin takes out Corey Heim. I don't know if the boys feel the same way because I thought at first it was kind of a bad block. I mean, it wasn't a bad block at first. He kind of squeezed him and then it turned into a decent block. And I think Hamlin kind of cut him a break a little bit there, in my opinion. Hamlin talked about it a little bit, and he kind of puts the blame on himself. He should have gotten a better restart. The bottom line should have worked together better on the restart and everything, which I could see. But I want to get the boys' thoughts on this. Tyler, how did we feel about that late block that Heim had put on the restart? You got to do everything you can to win the race, so I'm not mad at Heim or anything. He did what he needed to do to win the race, but I personally feel like if almost any other driver was making that block on Hamlin, that Hamlin's at least giving him a bump, maybe even turning him around.
Oh, he's definitely turning him. I mean, any other driver and he's turning him. So, I mean, he's not gonna. I don't know. He's wrecked his own cars before, but I think he's beyond that, and Heim didn't deserve to be wrecked. Late block for sure, but racing's racing, right? So Denny's gonna do whatever he can to win. He doesn't care who that means wrecking, but I don't think it was necessary for this race.
Yeah, I think one thing that possibly came into his mind in the moment, I doubt it came into his mind, but it maybe changed up his mindset. Like I think it was it last year when he sent it into turns 3 and 4 on the last lap and got into Bubba Wallace's door and it let Chase Elliott get to victory lane. That's something that may have came to his mind or at least changed his mindset because I feel like Hamlin's a lot more aggressive in that scenario if it's not one of his own cars, in my opinion. I don't know if that's the correct opinion or not. But Cory, how did you feel about that block that Heim pulled? Do you think it was a good block? You thought it was a little aggressive? Also, Hamlin's behind pretty much anybody else. Do you think he's showing more aggression, or what do you think? What do you think about all that?
I mean, look where he ended up. It was a great block.
Well, yeah,
That was a
yeah,
great block.
it's what he needed
Yeah,
to do.
no, I mean, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it was just racing, right? And I completely agree with what you said. Like, well, one, Heim had to do it because he knows if anybody got to his inside, he was not going to win that race. And then two, that if it wasn't a 2311 car or a JGR car minus Ty Gibbs, then he was gonna give him a bump and try to and maybe wreck him. Like if that was Larson, 1000%,
1,000%.
1000%, he's giving him a bump and potentially wrecking him because he knows he's about to lose the Brickyard 400 because he's not going to be able to pass. Like look at what he did with Chase Briscoe. He was faster than him for 20 laps
Couldn't
and
pass him.
was just stuck behind him. So yeah, I mean I agree with what you said 100%.
Yeah, I just feel like Hamlin would be more aggressive if it wasn't one of his own cars. I don't know if he necessarily wrecks him or not, but yeah, I think he's going to be more aggressive. And then with Heim, yeah, I thought at first when he came down, it looked like he put him under the line. It looked like they were still side by side, and then he threw a block on him. Obviously, that's what he needs to do to win the race, but Heim needs to be careful with that because, for example, that's Hocevar. Oh, if that's Hocevar, not Hamlin. Oh, Heim's going into the catch fence. Like because it was an aggressive block, but like you said, Cory, and I agree, he did what he needed to do. If he wanted to win that race, that was what he needed to do, and he did it. He was able to hold off Hamlin, and then obviously able to hold off Bell and Logano at the end of the race by just not making mistakes. So Heim did all the right things and got the victory. But now that we're done with that, now let us know your thoughts about how did you feel about Heim's victory, career win number 2, and what does this mean for the future for Corey Heim? One of the best starts to a career in the history of the NASCAR Cup Series, that is for sure. All right, that will have us move on to the rivalry of Corey Heim and Carson Hocevar. Because I said it very briefly earlier, but Hocevar was the best car in the field. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. Carson Hocevar was the fastest car in the field. He was the only one I saw actually making passes in the day. He actually passed a couple of cars on that last run. And Carson Hocevar, and I noticed it, and they said it at the end of the race, but I was noticing it throughout the race, that Carson Hocevar was awful at pit entry. He just gave up so much time on pit entry, and I think that's what ended up costing him to get behind Corey Heim. And once he was behind Corey Heim, he was in the dirty air, and there was nothing really he could do, and he was hemorrhaging time, hemorrhaging spots at this point. Carson Hocevar was, and in my opinion, Corey Heim getting in front of him on that pit stop, that green flag pit stop where Hocevar got behind Heim, I think decided the race. I really think Hocevar was the best car. Hocevar, then of course, one time comes down pit lane. Hocevar pulls one of the most funniest, I don't know if it was necessarily badass because it was kind of stupid at the same time, but one of the most notorious moves I've seen in a while, where he almost drives over the red box for pit entry. He almost drives right over the box and is just giving the bird to Corey Heim. Hocevar had fun with it afterwards. Heim had fun with it afterwards. Heim definitely taking some shots at Hocevar as well throughout the whole process, as he should, because he did win the race and everything. But I'm loving this rivalry. Heim did what he needed to do. In the moment, I was like, come on, man, just let Hocevar by. He has the better car. But Heim's like, this guy is my biggest threat to win this race. So it was smart on Heim to keep Hocevar back there, because my opinion, I think that decided the race right there. At least for Hocevar, that Hocevar probably wasn't going to win at that point because he was going to be just too far back. But this rivalry is really developing into something. I liked all Heim's comments afterwards. Like, y'all seem to talk a lot about someone who finished ninth. It's just, I put my ring on my middle finger today just for Carson, and it's just stuff like it's great. We need rivalries like this. I want to go to Tyler on this because I consider Tyler a fan of Corey Heim, but I would consider Tyler a super fan of Carson Hocevar. So I'm curious on his thoughts on this whole scenario. Tyler, Corey Heim and Carson Hocevar's rivalry has another chapter. What do you think about the bird that Hocevar gave? What do you think about Heim holding up Hocevar? And do you agree with me? I personally thought that Hocevar had the car to beat, and if that didn't happen with Heim, where Heim was blocking him and holding him up, maybe Hocevar wins this race.
Absolutely, Hocevar wins that race if he wasn't holding them up, in my opinion. But let's be real. I'm going to be setting the record straight right now. I'm a Heim supporter, but I'm a Carson fan. I support Heim, absolutely. Think the man has talent, but when it comes to a fan base, I'm Carson Hocevar all the way. Love that man. He's bringing life into our sport. Doesn't matter where the fuck he finishes, as he's bringing our life back 100%. And that's all he cares about, is making sure that there's life in this sport. That's why he flipped him off. Did 100% Carson's what we're for. I love Heim. We need him. We need somebody to challenge Carson and actually have some fun with it and stop being such punks about it all. I'm glad that he's accepted that role and accepted and having fun with that. A little much, right? You're thinking a lot about a man that you finished behind you. I mean, everybody's talking about Carson's thinking, and then really it doesn't matter what Carson's thinking, because Carson said, great race, and he's out here being like, put my ring on my middle finger just for you, Carson. Like, is that your boyfriend, or is that the dude you just beat? So relax a little bit,
Yeah, I guess I feel a little bit different about what you're saying at the end there, because I feel like they're both just having fun with it, really. I don't think Heim's having fun with it, and I think Carson's having fun with it too, because Carson afterwards was like, yeah, I was telling him he was number one. I knew he was going to win the race, And then I think they're both just having fun with it, and I think they are rivals. I don't think they necessarily hate each other, though. I don't think there's necessarily a hate between them, but I definitely think they're on-track rivals, per se.
Hate's a strong word, but they definitely don't like each other.
Yeah, they might not hang out and drink beers on the weekend and shit like that, but to be fair, Hocevar, from what I've heard, doesn't really like anybody. He's not friends with anybody. So I don't think, like I said, I don't think these two hate each other, but they definitely have an on-track sort of rivalry. It obviously reminds me a lot. Obviously, it's not to the extent, but it reminds me a lot of Gordon Earnhardt. It reminds me a lot of Gordon Earnhardt. Obviously, not those two drivers don't even compare to Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt, but reminds me of a very similar sort of rivalry as they had, because they didn't hate each other by any means. They would mess with each other constantly. You would see them in interviews messing with each other and stuff like that. And I could see that in the future for Hocevar and Heim. I wouldn't even be surprised if Hocevar and Heim have an agreement behind the scenes like Gordon and Earnhardt did to sell their merch. You know, it wouldn't surprise me. It just, this is a great rivalry that we have happening here, and I'm happy that it's happening between two drivers I can legitimately seeing winning a Cup Series championship one day. I think that's one of the things that excites me the most about this, because sometimes we'll see these rivalries and one driver is clearly way better than the other driver, or one's been around forever and one's a rook. You know, like remember a couple of years ago with Hamlin, like Hamlin and Chastain. You know, Chastain was still pretty fresh on the scene, had a couple of wins here and there, but wasn't, he seemed special, but he didn't have this historic career or anything like that yet. Hamlin, one of the elders of the sport, been there, done that, won a bunch of Daytona 500s. So this rivalry has the potential to go on for 10, 20 years for all we know. I'm not sure, but I like what we're seeing so far. Cory, how did you feel about the flip of the bird and just all these interactions we've seen between Heim and Hocevar? Because I feel like I said, I feel like they are on track rivals. I don't think they hate each other. And I think some of the stuff they're doing is to kind of play up for excitement and merch and all this stuff. What do you think about all this?
I mean, I love it.
I love it.
That was easily that was the most entertaining part of the race. Like, to be honest, right? Like, that is what the sport needs. Like, Hocevar is being super outgoing, and like, I think we've talked about Hocevar enough that we love what he's doing, and even when he's being an idiot sometimes or doing stuff like this, like, it's different, and we need different. Like, you can have an opinion on it either way. I know Door Bumper Clear is like, well, he didn't even see it, so I don't get the point. That's not the point.
That's not the point. Yeah.
NASCAR loved it. TV loved it. It's everywhere. And then Heim ran with it, and he started using it to talk shit back. Like, even if it's playful fun, right? Everyone else is robots. Like, everyone else is robots. So we need this type of thing. It's awesome. It's fun. Like, I hope they keep doing it. I can't wait to see what happens when they actually get in a wreck that's caused by one or the other, right? Like, see what happens after. Are they going to actually get in each other's face? You know, are they going to fight? And is NASCAR finally not going to, is hopefully NASCAR does nothing about it and they, you know, we get to see stuff like this again? Like, it's just, it's for a day that was so uneventful, that was awesome. Even if it resulted in nothing, that was awesome.
Yeah, in my opinion, that was the best part of the whole weekend, not even just the Sunday race. That was the thing I liked the most, probably enjoyed the most out of the whole weekend. Like, obviously, everything that happened with Junior and Carson Quaffle really made my heart feel something for sure. But this had my blood, like, boiling, you know, like, oh, what's going to happen between these guys? What's going to happen? What's going to happen next? You know what I mean? It just brings that little bit of excitement to it, you know, and I like what you're saying, Cory, because I'm hoping here soon we get a battle for the win between these guys or something like that, because that's one thing I would like to see, is these two battle out for a win. I could see them having something very similar to what Larson and Hamlin have had over the last number of years. They don't really have a rivalry, I would say, but they're always racing out front with each other, and they always race each other super hard. You know, I could see something very similar with Heim and Hocevar, at least with the on-track stuff. I could see something very similar. I would like that. Them getting into a wreck with one another and one of them causing it, that, who knows what happens there. I doubt they tussle, because I don't see either of them as fighters. I don't see either of them as fighters at all, but maybe they get into a fight. That would be interesting. That would be very interesting. I'd be surprised by it, to be honest, but we'll have to see on that. But just overall, everything I'm seeing from this rivalry is great. And then, yeah, that middle finger from Hocevar, like you were saying, Cory, door bumper clear. It's like, oh, you didn't even see that. Why does it matter? Well, Hocevar is kind of showing his personality, and I don't think Hocevar is going into that middle finger. Oh, let me do this middle finger for TV because they'll love it. I don't think that's his idea. I think that's just who he is. That's just who he is. Like, a lot of people like to compare Hocevar to Earnhardt. I truly think the better comparison is to Rowdy. That's just me coming from a Rowdy fan, because he reminds me just so much of Rowdy's attitude and the way he carried his stuff. He's like, oh, you don't like me? Oh, you don't like how I race? Oh, well, screw you then, you know? Like, I don't know. It very, very similar to Rowdy, and Rowdy is obviously very similar to Earnhardt as well. So I love what I'm seeing from these guys. I'm hoping to continue to see it. I love the back and forth, especially from Heim, because Heim doesn't usually get into stuff like this, and he's having these back and forths with Hocevar. He gets questions asked about Hocevar. I was like, why are y'all so obsessed with the guy that finished ninth, or why? Like, it's just it's great. It's great what they're doing. I love it. I'm hoping to continue to see it because we need rivalries in our sport, especially from the young guys, because that creates stars. Because Hocevar is becoming a superstar in our sport right now, one of the biggest superstars we have at the moment. And Heim has all the potential to be right there with him as one of the more popular guys, one of the more well-known guys in our sport because of the way he races and because of his personality. So I'm excited to see more of this rivalry and more of Carson Hocevar and more of Corey Heim because they're just great for our sport. But can we get Connor Zilic in there, please? Please. Connor Zilic, where are you? Damn you, Trackhouse. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about this rivalry between Corey Heim and Carson Hocevar? They're battling who's the better CH. I just realized they have the same initials. They're battling it out to see who's the better CH between these two. But what do you think about their rivalry? What do you think about Hocevar giving the bird? What do you think about the post-race comments that these guys have made about each other? It just seems like seems like a legitimate rivalry, but at the same time, it seems like they're having some fun with it. But let us know your thoughts in the comments about all that down below. All right, before we move on from the Brickyard, we do got to talk about the Gillionaire, Todd Gilliland, the Todd father, Toddy Pickles, got the in-season challenge. I'm pretty happy about it. I know Ryan Blaney probably isn't too happy about it. Jonathan Nemechek pretty much took Ryan Blaney out of this. Ryan Blaney got wrecked late in this race, ended up having to come from the back, and he made up some passes. He definitely had a quicker car, I would say, than Todd Gilliland in this race, even with the damage. But with how difficult it was to pass, he was just never quite able to get to Gilliland. Blaney finished 26th. Gilliland finished 24th. They had AJ Allmendinger finish right in between them. And Todd Gilliland is your in-season challenge champion. And I'm going to be honest, and I like Todd Gilliland, but Todd Gilliland kind of fell face first into this. Obviously, you need to keep your car clean. You need to be in the right place, right time, all this and that. But what was his average finish? Like 19th, 19 something, I think they said, or 18 something. It was a high teens number, which isn't bad, I guess for especially the car he's in, it's not necessarily bad. But to win the in-season challenge, like I said, he kind of fell face first into it. But nonetheless, I love to see underdogs and these underdogs win the race and win races especially. But the in-season challenge I think is really great too. And what this does for Todd Gilliland's career, I think is probably pretty good. It probably gains him more notoriety for sure. You can always put that down on a resume, in-season challenge champion or whatever the case may be. It helps with sponsorship. It helps with contracts and money and all this and that. Maybe gets a pay raise. I don't know. I'm not sure where all the $1 million is going to go. That's going to probably get split up amongst the team, and Todd probably gets a portion of it as well. But Todd Gilliland, in-season challenge champion for the second year of the in-season challenge. I'll send it to Tyler because I know me and Tyler both picked Todd Gilliland to win this last week, and we both really wanted it. I think Cory wanted him to win it too, but Cory was more of a realist and picked Ryan Blaney. But Tyler, Todd Gilliland wins the in-season challenge. And what are your thoughts on Toddy Pickles getting the job done here?
Man, it was everything. It wasn't another episode of a Gibbs winning $1 million for no reason, right? So I think that's what we all care about at the end of the day, is seeing somebody that could use that $1 million win it, especially when it comes to grassroots racers. Like Todd, he came up through the ranks. He did what he needed to do. I mean, yes, his dad raced too, but Todd has had to race his way through this. So I mean, yeah, there's nothing really to say. It's nice to see somebody that deserves it, even if his finishes were not averages. Is he fell into it, but better fall into it than Baby Gibbs.
Yeah, I like the spotlight that it's given Todd Gilliland, because I think Todd Gilliland's a very talented racer. Like you said, he kind of had to work his way up. He didn't really have any money or sponsorship behind him, even though his dad raced in NASCAR for a number of years, David Gilliland. Dave Gilliland, of course, now owner down in the truck series of Tricon. Well, part owner of Tricon. There's a couple of different owners over there. But yeah, Todd Gilliland came through the sport. He raced for Kyle Busch. for a couple of years in the Truck Series, and he eventually moved up to the NASCAR Cup Series, and he's done a good job since getting up there. Obviously, he hasn't gotten a win, but he's gotten some good finishes. He's gotten some top 10s. He's gotten some top 5s out there, sure, as well. He's came close to getting a couple of victories at super speedways. He's done really well in short tracks and road courses. I think that would be where some of his stronger racetracks would be those. And yeah, got the in-season challenge. And it's great for his career, I would say. Cory, what do we think about the Gillionaire of Todd Gilliland getting the in-season challenge?
I think it's awesome. I think it shows that the in-season tournament should stay. I mean, last year the hype was Ty Dillon. Like, we wanted Ty Dillon to win it, right? And that, I mean, we could say the same thing last year. It would have fallen into his lap if he would have won. This year, I think obviously the favorite was Blaney, and John Hunter Nemechek had different ideas.
He did.
And, Todd Gilliland is the beneficiary, and it fell into his lap. But that's the in-season tournament. I think that's what makes it awesome, is that, like you said, it shines the light on the people that aren't always up front and aren't always being talked about. It gives the chance for, like, the big teams to not win it, right? Like, imagine if Ty Dillon would have won it, and then you have Todd Gilliland win it this year. Like, that's awesome. Like, it's something that the sport should keep. Is it the most entertaining thing? No, but like when you have a race like we did this Sunday, and you throw in the in-season challenge, dude, imagine how boring it would have been if you didn't have the in-season challenge or Carson Osevar flipping somebody off. Like, literally, we would have nothing to talk about.
Yeah, well, only thing we'd probably have to talk about at that point would be Cory Heim victory. So yeah, valid points. One thing I would do want the in-season challenge to come back, but I would like the schedule to be different. I know they want the in-season challenge to finish up at the Brickyard because it's a crown jewel event. It means something. It's a big racetrack, But if we're gonna get even similar racing to what we had this year, it shouldn't be the in-season challenge championship, in my opinion. They need to put it somewhere more exciting, more fun. Not a super speedway, though. Definitely not a super speedway, but somewhere where it actually shows skill as well. So that would probably be my one note for the in-season challenge to change next year. Other than that, I mean, obviously the seating probably needs to be a little different as well. They need to figure out a better way to probably do the seating as well. But other than that, the in-season challenge, I think, is a big success, and congratulations to Todd Gilliland. You got the job done. I think John Hunter Nemechek deserves a $50,000 cut. In my opinion, I think he deserves a cut of the winnings, because if John Hunter Nemechek doesn't completely wreck Ryan Blaney, Todd Gilliland doesn't take it. But yeah, John Hunter going to do what John Hunter does sometimes, and that's take people out from time to time. Picked a bad time to do it to Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney was not happy. He was not hearing. John Hunter tried to apologize. Ryan Blaney was not listening. He was not listening to that apology at all. But Todd Gilliland gets the in-season challenge. We'll have to see if it returns again next year for when TNT is back again next summer. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How did you feel about this season's in-season challenge? And Todd Gilliland gets the job done. All right, now that we are done with the Brickyard 400 weekend, before we get into our more news stories, I do want to have our silly season discussion, because I feel like from this point forward, and I said before we got the show started, and I said it last week as well, this is the time of the year where we really see a lot of these silly season announcements and news really begin to really pour out, because all the dominoes are beginning to fall, and we have some silly season stuff to talk about. One of the first things I would like to talk about here is, I forgot actually what was the more important thing out of these. No, yeah, they're both front row, really. They're both really front row. No open spots, it sounds like, at Front Row Motorsports in the NASCAR Cup Series next year. I know we discussed it last week with Noah Gragson and everything, but it sounds like Noah Gragson, Zane Smith, and then, of course, Todd Gilliland, the in-season challenge champion, sounds like they're all going to remain at Front Row Motorsports next year, which kind of also tells me that Austin Hill is most likely getting the number 33 ride, and we might discuss that a little bit more later. But I want to send it to the boys on this one, starting, of course, with Tyler, because I know Tyler had very high hopes for Noah Gragson to move on from Front Row Motorsports. And from what I know of, the contract has not been signed yet for Noah. According to my knowledge, he hasn't signed the contract yet, but everything is pointing towards they're trying to work out a deal between Gregson and that number 4 car, and then Zane Smith and Todd Gilliland, of course, already locked in. Tyler, how do you feel about all this? Front row staying as is.
Noah can't raid until the ink is dry. I don't want to hear about it.
Tyler's like, I don't want to. Tyler's over it. Tyler's so mad. Tyler's
I'm
like,
with him. I'm with him on that one, to be honest, dude. I mean, I feel like the stars are too aligned. It should just go to Lane Riggs next year. I know Lane's getting thrown in the fire quick, but dude, just give Noah a change of scenery. I mean, I hope that RCR job's still open. I hope the 33 goes to Noah, but like, yeah, dude, like,
I don't care if he's driving BJ McLaren next year. Just get the fuck out of front row.
I wouldn't say that, but yeah,
He's
like,
like, I wouldn't
dude,
go that
he
far.
needs to change his scenery, dude.
I wouldn't go that
Clearly,
far
they're not. I don't know, man. I think we all agree that Noah and Zane Smith, I think they have the same amount of talent, or maybe, I don't know. I don't know what you guys' opinion is on that. They're all drivers. We all root for them, but it's just like, I don't know. That 4 car hasn't been up front ever. And then even if the car's not in a wreck, it's the slowest car on the track. And that's not Noah's fault.
Well, you have to keep in mind, one thing to keep in mind, I think it's something we always forget to bring up when we discuss Noah Gragson and we discuss Front Row Motorsports, is that the 34 and the 38 were already established teams that they had to build up over a long period of time. Like, it took a long time for Front Row to actually be competitive. We remember 10, 15 years ago, they were riding in the back, whether it was Long Sean Silver's on the hood or Taco Bell on the hood. They were garbage every week. And now at this point, obviously the 34 and the 38, I would say, aren't as good this year as they were last year. Well, 34, I should say. Zane's actually had a really good year, but we have to keep in mind that it took forever to build up just those 2 teams. Then they decided to add the 3rd team when they bought the charter from Stuart Haas, and that is the 3rd team being Noah Gregson's number 4 car. Personally, if I were Noah Gragson, I would not resign with Front Row, even if that means I have to go down to the O'Reilly series or the Truck series. And if I am going to resign to Front Row, it's going to be with the Front Row Truck series team, not the Cup series team, to build myself back up. Because if you go to Front Row Motorsports, I think you're wanting your career to end. At least that number 4 car, because they don't have it figured out at all over there. It's disappointing to watch as a Noah fan, for sure. And I'm surprised. I'm very surprised that they've locked him up, just because Noah hasn't had a great year. He hasn't had a great Cup Series career in general. Lane Riggs is clearly ready for the NASCAR Cup Series. So I'm very confused that Front Row rather have Noah in the car than Lane. And that's not a shot at Noah. Just Noah hasn't done great the last couple of years. Lane Riggs is clearly ready. Noah Gragson is clearly unhappy. So none of this really makes a lot of sense to me personally, no matter what way you're looking at it. Whether it's Lane Riggs perspective, Front Row perspective, Noah Gragson perspective, no matter what perspective you have from this, it doesn't make any sense to me that this is happening.
To me,
what's up?
To me, like, the only way if I was a very talented Cup driver and I wanted to go into the Cup Series, the only way I would want to go to Front Row Motorsports is, I mean, obviously, if it's your only option, you just want to stay racing. I get it, but like, if you're young, like, I think
Gregson's young still.
it's more of a Ford issue. I think it's more of a Ford issue because I think, other than the 2 Penske cars and Austin Cindric is barely in the chase right now, like, there's no other Ford teams that are competitive, and I know there's not really a lot of them.
Butcher's had a good year.
Yeah, true. But like, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like that team's like, we root for them, but I don't know, with Noah's situation, I think it's time for a change of scenery because we know he can do it. Like, Noah's the personality that we need to see up front.
Yeah, we need Noah doing well, and I think that's why so many teams have given him the chance. I said it last week. I'll say it again this week. It reminds me so similar of Daniel Suarez, because I think a lot of the team owners were big fans of Suarez. They know he's capable of getting the job done. But Suarez, very similar to Noah Gragson, is a sponsorship stream. Gragson maybe even more than Suarez. You know, the sponsorships, money, love Noah Gragson, and of course Daniel Suarez. So Daniel Suarez continued to get opportunities until he found a good fit, and I thought he found a pretty decent fit with Trackhouse, and obviously a lot of things have changed at Trackhouse. That was no longer a good fit, and now he's over at Spire, and he's having a lot of success at Spire. No matter what way you want to say he's having that success, he's doing well in that number 7 car. And I see something very similar with Gragson. He needs to have the chemistry. He needs to be at the right race team at the right time, and he also needs to race with confidence. That's one of the reasons why if I'm Gregson, I honestly go down to Trucks or O'Reilly. I think that's probably his best option, because it sounds like to me that the RCR 33 probably isn't an option. And I bet Richard wants him in the car. I bet the Bass Pro wants him in the car. But what about these other sponsors that Austin Hill has been doing well for these last couple of weeks, last couple of months at this point? So if those other sponsors want Austin Hill over Noah Gragson, guess what? They're going to get Austin Hill. So I don't know what Gragson needs to do. Front row is a very interesting place right now, because it sounds like, just to continue the front row conversation, it sounds like we're going to have an opening in the truck series at front row. It sounds like Chandler Smith is going to be out of the 38 truck next year. And that sounds like it's been confirmed he's not returning to the 38 truck for front row next year. And the big rumor is that he's actually going to make the move over to Richard Childress Racing in the O'Reilly series to either drive the number 2 or the number 21. Still not sure if Austin Hill is going to move up to the Cup Series, but we already know that Jesse Love is going to drive the number 21. So that's potentially 2 open rides at RCR, which is one of the premier teams in the O'Reilly Series next year. I want to get the boys' thoughts on that as well. Cory, all this front row madness going on, and by madness I mean no changes when we expected changes. That on top of Chandler Smith, 3rd in the standings, sounds like he is potentially moving up next year.
That's awesome for I almost said Zane Smith, Chandler Smith. He deserves it. I mean, he's been consistent. I mean, is he better than Lane Riggs right now? No, but he's 3rd in the standings. He's been starting to be consistent as of late, running well. And, I think we can all agree that he's earned it, and I can't wait to see how he runs in the O'Reilly car. Yeah, and I think, like you said, it's very surprising that that it doesn't look like there's going to be any change in front row motorsports. I know that Tyler is like done with this topic because he wants Noah to be free, but yeah, it's and the good news is that Chandler is moving up. To be honest, that's the best news so far that we've talked about. I'm happy for him. I can't wait to see how he does.
But with Chandler moving up, one thing that I just kind of thought about right there, what if the reason is that front row isn't doing any changes? Maybe Lane Riggs saw how poorly the 4 was doing, and he decided himself not to race Cup next year. Is that a possibility that he chose on his own not to race Cup next year? Maybe waits on a Penske ride to open the number 2, perhaps?
If I was him, that's the smart decision. I mean, and I hate to be bagging on front row as much as we are. It's just there's no sign of life
spade's
there.
A spade.
Like
a spade's
Zane,
a spade.
Zane Smith has had like a really good run for a couple races there, but right now, 23rd in the standings, 24th in the standings, and 31st in the standings. So it's not like the signs of life are that great. You know what I mean? I think Todd Gilliland is 120 points out of being in the chase right now. So with 4 races left, he's pretty much out unless everything goes right.
Yeah, it's been tough for front row as a whole this season. And yeah, it just looks like there's no changes happening. But Chandler Smith, it's not official that Chandler Smith is moving up yet, but it sounds like he's moving to RCR. Tyler, like we were talking about front row and how there's probably no changes over there for the most part, but it sounds like Chandler Smith might be moving to RCR in the O'Reilly series next year to drive the 2 or the 21, leaves that 38 truck open next season. How do we feel about Chandler getting the the potential chance, I should say, of moving up? Well, it looks like we might have lost Tyler. His internet was really messing with them. So unfortunately, we won't be joined by Tyler for the rest of this edition of Hit the Pacecar. But let's continue on with a couple other news stories that we have to go over. And One news story that I really wanted Tyler here to discuss this because I knew you'd be pretty passionate about this one, but it sounds like we're going to get the return of the Clash at Daytona this next year, whether it's the Clash or they want to rename it the Shootout again or whatever they want to call it. NASCAR is back for their preseason event at Daytona, and it will be the day before the Super Bowl on that Saturday. So 8 days before the Daytona 500 is when the Clash will be next year. And it's not official. Nothing has been announced by NASCAR yet, but it sounds like we're gonna get the Daytona Clash back, which I think is something we all wanted, not just because it gets you more hype for the 500, but one of the reasons I would like it because it would be a good tester, because I know we're trying to change a lot of stuff with the car and a lot of stuff with the super speedway package and stuff like that. So that could provide a good test for the 500. That way the 500 goes off really well. But we'll have to see what happens with all of that. But Cory, the Clash is back at Daytona. I think this is where it needs to be. I think this is probably the best place for it. It just makes the most sense. How do you feel about this?
I'm happy about it. I hope it turns out well. There's no saying that it's gonna sell out or, I mean, have a lot of fans show up. I think that's my biggest fear on it, but I'm happy for it as a fan, TV wise, because I mean, I loved Bowman Gray, but they need to fix the super speedway issue right now where you can't really run full speed because it doesn't work. You can't pass. They need to work on it. So this is a good chance to do that. I think we also miss the Budweiser shootout. We miss like what they did back in the day. You got to see more of the driver's personality, more of them hanging out. And there's no saying that they're going to do that, but I know it it's kind of like they needed to do it, and I'm happy they are. Let's just hope it turns out well and they can address the issues that they need to address.
Yeah, and one thing I hope too, I'm hoping that along with the All-Star race, and it was discussed on Door Bumper Clear this week, and we've talked about it here before. We want these races to mean more. So a way to make this mean more is bring back you need a pole. You need to sit on the pole at some point to qualify for the Budweiser Shootout or the Busch Clash or whatever you want to call it. You need a pole, or you need to have won the event before, or you need to be a Cup Series champion. In my opinion, that would qualify you for the Busch Clash. Let's not try to include everybody. Let's not make heats at a super speedway as well, because that's just asking for trouble. That's just asking to waste a lot of money on an event that's not worth points. There's going to be a lot of wrecked race cars if we try heats at Daytona. I don't think that's a good move either. I think the best thing to do would be pole winners, previous winners of the event, and Cup Series champions would probably be the best for this event, and I hope they do that. And then with the All-Star race, previous winners, and then of course previous All-Star champions and Cup Series champions as well for that. So I'm hoping they're able to make those changes to it. I don't know if they will or not. I kind of doubt it, just because of money and sponsorship and the way TV does things. They want everybody to be included, or at least everybody get an opportunity, and I don't want to do that, especially at a super speedway. So I'm hoping they're able to change some stuff like that. But I think the Clash is where it belongs. And I think you brought up a decent point when it comes to people at the racetrack, like how many fans will actually show up to this race. Well, I think with this being the return to Daytona for the Clash, that being a very popular area of the country for race fans, plus the fact that going into this race, I think there's a very good chance that we don't know what we're going to see. So that creates a little bit of excitement, just that ability of not knowing what's about to happen, So I think that brings a little bit of excitement to it as well. So I don't think they're going to they're obviously not going to sell out or anything like that, but I think they can sell a good amount of seats. You also have to keep in mind Bowman Gray doesn't really hold that many people. Bowman Gray holds 15,000 people, something like that. So I think that they'll be able to get more than 20,000 people in the stands at Daytona. I think they could easily get 40,000 in the stands, if not 50,000 or more in the stands for that race, potentially. Especially if you have other stuff going on during the weekend. Like one thing I could see them doing during the weekend, I talked about it a couple weeks ago, was the Miatas at Daytona. They tend to race a couple of weeks before the 500, so maybe they change around their schedule, because the MX5 Cup is part of IMSA and IMSA is part of NASCAR. So maybe they're able to work something out where the MX5 Cup runs the same weekend as the Budweiser Shootout. I think that would be probably a pretty good move from everybody. That would probably be a good move. Maybe get some other stuff set up. Bring out the merchandise haulers, obviously. First chance to buy 2027 merch, stuff like that. I think there's a lot of things they could do to bring people in there. And I think it's just a good move to have it back at Daytona. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about the Clash going back to Daytona before the 500? All right. That will have us move on to a couple of other news stories, one of them being Jimmie Johnson. Jimmie Johnson will be back in the number 48. He'll be racing. We know that he's going to be racing his last Cup Series race in the 2027 Daytona 500. He obviously is part owner of Legacy Motor Club and that number 84 car he occasionally drives. Well, Hendrick Motorsports have given him permission to drive the number 48 for that race, which brings up a question, of course, with Alex Bowman on what number he'll drive. But the first thing I want to say is just, I think this is one of the classiest moves I've seen. I might not be this Hendrick Motorsports diehard that a lot of NASCAR fans are. I'm not necessarily too fond of Hendrick Motorsports, but I've always been very fond of Rick Hendrick because he just seems like a very classy individual. And this was a very classy move by him, letting Jimmie Johnson drive the number 48 in his last race. And then the question with Alex Bowman, what number does he drive? I think a lot of people have him penned to drive the 25. I personally still think once Alex Bowman retires at the end of 2027, I think the 48 will be retired for a certain amount of time and the 25 will be brought back. That's still what I think for the end of the 2027 season going into 2028. But for the 2027 Daytona 500, my early prediction is that Alex Bowman will drive the number 46. With the announcement of Days of Thunder 2 to start filming, it sounds like next year at some point, in the beginning of next year at some point. So I think they're going to be using that number. I think they're going to put a bunch of cameras in that number 46 car for Alex Bowman in the Daytona 500. And they're going to, obviously, Alex Bowman's going to race that car. It's going to be a car that could win the Daytona 500. But I think that 46 car is also going to be used as a film car for Days of Thunder 2. In my opinion, I don't know if that will end up happening. Obviously, if you don't know the story with the original Days of Thunder, Rick Hendrick supplied the cars for that. His dealership was used in that movie. Rick Hendrick had a big part to be played in the first Days of Thunder, and I would expect him to play a very big part in the second one as well. And maybe that starts with Alex Bowman driving the number 46 in the Daytona 500. Cory, what are your thoughts on all this? Jimmie Johnson gets one more shot in the 48 in the Daytona 500. And what number do you see Alex Bowman potentially driving in the Daytona 500? Because it might be his last Daytona 500 as well.
I think it's awesome. Like, I think all of us as race fans want to see Jimmie in that 48 one more time. And to do it at the Daytona 500, I really hope Lowe's comes back and they do a whole shebang. It's the whole crew's back together. I hope, even if it's just the old Lowe's paint scheme, I'm cool with that. I hope they do some Jimmie Johnson / like highlights of his career on the car. Go all out. The last shebang, the last hurrah, and make it memorable. Make the car look awesome, and I hope he runs well. I'm excited. Like, that'll be so cool to see one more time. Yeah, and that'll be a diecast that will get a lot of pre-orders for sure.
Yeah, that diecast will get a whole bunch of pre-orders. And yeah, I hope he does do well in it. Lowe's, I think, needs to come back. I know Lowe's left the sport because they wanted to put more money into football and college football advertising and stuff like that. But I think they've gotten a lot of social media interaction over the last couple of days, I should say. And it hasn't been a week yet. It's only been a couple of days. But I think Lowe's have already gotten a lot of social media interactions with people asking for Lowe's to come back for this one-off. And yeah, they don't need to sponsor Jimmie Johnson for a bunch of races. Just sponsor him for one race, sponsor the whole car, bring back Lowe's. If you can, bring back even the Cobalt tools and put it on the side somewhere if you want, bring that back. That would just be great. Even though it's a Toyota, obviously a Chevy would be better just because of a nostalgia factor, but he is an owner of a race team that drives Toyotas, so it will be a Toyota. But other than that, I hope it looks like the same car. And that's just awesome. And Cory, you didn't mention it there, but what do you think? What number could you see Alex Bowman potentially driving? Because it also might be his last Daytona 500. Because he says he's retiring from full time racing. He might race another Daytona 500 in 2028, 2029. Who knows? But we saw this, like look at Martin Truex Jr., for example. Martin Truex Jr. said he retired from full time racing, raced that Daytona 500, and we haven't seen him again since. So it could be one last go for Bowman as well. What number could you potentially see Bowman racing?
I hope it's the 25. I don't think it will be. If I was to bet money on it, I'd say he goes back to the 88 for that Daytona 500.
You said what?
I I'd say he goes back to the 88 for that day. Oh well, Connor Zillich. I don't know why I didn't think of that. Oops. Yeah, no. I mean, I would hope the 25 then. The 25. I had a brain fart there. That's funny.
All good, all good. But yeah, who knows what number Bowman drives? Because yeah, Bowman, it might be his last 500 as well. So it's interesting to see what number they decide to race. I wouldn't be against the 25 at all because I do think the 25 is going to make its comeback. But I think it's going to make its comeback then in the next Daytona 500 with either Connor Zillich driving the car or Corey Day or Carson Quaffle or Roger Carruth, something like that. We'll have to see what
Do you
happens
think
with
they get
that.
rid of the 48
Yes.
after next
Yes.
year?
Yes. I think they get rid of the 48. I don't know if they necessarily sell it to another team for them to use it, but I think it at least goes on the shelf, very similar to the 18 at Gibbs, very similar to the 25 at Hendrick, where it got put on the shelf. That's what I think. That's what I think. I think it gets
I
put
hope
on the
you're right.
shelf because yeah, the 48's a big number and it has a big legacy behind Jimmy Johnson. And they've had the 25 sitting on the shelf. Like we haven't seen other teams race the 25, so Hendrick still has the number. Clearly, Hendrick still has the number 25 because I feel like the 25 would have been a number used by some sort of race team by now. The fact that no team has used the 25, it tells me that Hendrick still has the number 25 sitting on the shelf waiting to be used. And I think it gets brought back in 2028 for somebody to drive, whether that's Zillich, Day, or whoever. I don't know who yet, but I think somebody drives that 25 in 2028, I should say. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. Jimmy Johnson, one last go in the 48 for the 2027 Daytona 500. Also, what number do you think Alex Bowman's going to drive in the Daytona 500? Because at the moment, he has the number 48 for the rest of the season, but he doesn't have it for the Daytona 500. So him and Rick Hendrick have to figure out a number. What number do you think he drives? Let us know your thoughts about all that in the comments. All right, our second to last thing really to talk about here today, something that's been discussed throughout the week, plus something that's been very recently discussed just earlier today, and we thought we would combine it into one topic, and that is just NASCAR in general on television is kind of what we're calling this. Because there was a big discussion this week about making races shorter, that way the races are more entertaining for fans, and also the drivers are able to have more time out of the car. I think that would probably take a part in it as well, because some of these races are unnecessarily too long. I think some people would look at it as. And then also earlier today, as I am recording this on Tuesday, Carson Hocevar watching old time races, saying that today's fans don't really care about tire wear or aero or any of this stuff. Like casual fans don't really care about that stuff. They just want to be entertained by what's on their screens. So, and with TNT finishing up overall, I thought TNT did a okay job. They didn't do bad. I think they did a good job when it came to post race, pre-race and everything. Obviously the commercials got a little ridiculous at points, but other than that, I thought TNT did a pretty good job. This time around, I thought they did better than Fox. I'll say that at least. They did better than Fox. They obviously didn't beat Prime though. But it's a good discussion to have if we want shorter races and what we could really do about the TV product. Me personally, I don't mind a couple of races throughout the year being a little bit shorter. I don't mind a 300-mile race potentially here and there. Obviously, certain tracks and certain races shouldn't get shorter races. But a couple of races, I wouldn't mind to get a little bit shorter throughout the year. I can't really name them on top of my head on what races I would necessarily want shorter, but obviously not the Crown Jewels. Martinsville, obviously I want Martinsville to become better, but I don't want Martinsville or Bristol to get shortened. There's the Daytona Talladega, I don't want to get shortened, but There's probably a couple races on the schedule. Like if Dover becomes a full-time race again, I don't mind if that's a little shorter. Pocono, I wouldn't mind if Pocono is probably a couple laps shorter or something like that. If they bring back San Diego next year, I think San Diego should be shorter. And obviously with the TV product, they need to find a way to make this more entertaining for fans, for casual fans at least. Us diehards are going to be watching no matter what, but for the casuals, we need to figure out ways to make it more exciting. And I'm a little lost on how we could really do that. Obviously, with pre-race and post-race, I think we're doing a good amount right now to make that better, and I think we're doing a good job across the board when it comes to that. But during the race, what do we really do to make this more exciting, Corey? Lighten me on that.
Man, it's I think the biggest issue for the length of the races right now, which they're finally addressing, is the length of the cautions. Like the cautions are so long. Doesn't matter if it's a single car spin or a big pileup. It takes 20 minutes. It takes 10 laps. Like the truck race, just to throw another example out there, the truck race, stage 1 ended, no wrecks, nothing. It took them 10 laps to start the next stage.
That's
Those laps
ridiculous.
count towards the race. I don't care if it's a half a mile track or a mile track. You shouldn't take 10 laps to start the race again and it count towards the race. Like, I don't know. It makes me want to get rid of stage cautions, but stage like restarts are a part of what makes this car so awesome because it's hard to pass. Right? So like you lose something, you gain something at the same time. If they're worried about shorter, I don't want to get rid of laps where they're racing. Like, and I guess that's selfish of me or selfish of the common race fan. I don't think the race length is an issue. Like they usually, unless there's a bunch of accidents, which is entertaining, it ends around 3 hours, 3.5. And if you want to cut 20 to 30 minutes off of that, stop with all these long ass cautions. Like I get you need to throw your commercials in there, like, but there's no reason to have so many long cautions. Like, yeah, to be honest, like even we're sitting there at races going like, what's taking so long? Why are we still under caution? Like we've been there saying that same thing, and it now they're suddenly like, wow, this is an issue. Like, yeah, and it took it took Kyle Larson to say, oh, the races are too long, and another the Indy car driver to say, "Oh yeah, I
Scott
take a
Dixon.
nap during that race." Huh?
Scott Dixon.
Yeah, Scott Dixon saying he's taking a nap during the race, right? But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm not a fan of them taking away laps to shorten the races. I think there's other ways they can do it, and it's the first thing is stop with the long ass cautions. Um, then what else was you asked? You said that
How do we make the TV product better?
yeah, I completely agree with what Carson Hocevar's saying. The rant he's going on, like I think our biggest reason that we hate watching NASCAR on Fox is because you can fall asleep to that booth. I think we all like everybody in the booth. I just think the product, all three of them together, whatever it is, it's not fun TV. It's not exciting TV. It's kind of like NASCAR's version of golf. You know what I mean? Like announcers during NASCAR races. It's very, very boring and not exciting. And that's just the first of it. Like they'll miss wrecks and not have good camera angles. And there's a lot. I mean, that's just going in on Fox, but like a lot of it's the car too. The car itself, like last week, this week at Indy was boring. And that's the track and strategy or whatever. Like there's just a lot going against it compared to the old days. Like I feel like we always talk about the old days. That was before I was even watching racing, but you could just see it and like the sound of the car, how they hyped on that more. Like you got more, you felt like you were at the track. You felt the speed through your TV back in that day versus now it's just, well, this is why they're not passing as much and the strategy and what's important about the strategy because they have to counter how bad this car is. And I think it's been a while since we talked about how shitty this car is because I don't know why, but there's a lot of things they have to try to fix if they want to get back to the entertainment value of the good old days. Because I mean, it's not just the broadcasters or the camera angles or the caution laps or this car. It's all of it put together, and they need to. I mean, they need to do a lot if they want to get back to the good old days.
Yeah, I agree. They need to do a lot. And yeah, the commentators booth, I think, is the broadcast booth, I think, is one area to look at because you were talking about the Fox booth. I think Mike Joy, I think he's a really good commentator. He's been a great commentator for a number of years, but uh, he's not very exciting. So I get that. He's only really exciting in the big moments. I think the best commentators are the ones that are going to get you excited over stuff that isn't really even happening. Like, look at Formula One. Like, Formula One, it's, in my opinion, not nearly as entertaining as NASCAR or even IndyCar, but their commentators are on it. They always make you feel like something's happening. You know, they always make you like, and I think good commentators, like, not good, but great commentators, I should say, do that. Like, good commentators do what Mike Joy does, where he gets the job done, and in the exciting moments, he's excited, and he makes everybody else excited. And he brings up the booth in those moments. But look at someone like Adam Alexander, for example. You know, Adam Alexander, I think he's improved so much as a commentator. He used to not be that great. I think he's improved so much. And then also listen to the end of that TNT race. Like, their booth, even though we knew that nothing was going to happen, that no one was going to pass Heim at the end of that race, the commentators at the end of that race made you think that Christopher Bell could pass him, or, oh, Joey Logano, he's going to make the pass. You know, like, they made you feel like that was possible, even though in their mind they knew it wasn't really possible. In our mind, we knew it wasn't really possible unless he made a mistake. You know, so I think that's the difference between good and great commentators, and I think that definitely helps a lot. Obvious, and I think the cautions are a big thing too. The cautions are just too damn long. And you were talking about with IRP the other night, a 10 lap long caution. It's because it's such a short racetrack, and they're trying to get in all the commercials they can, plus do the pit stops. And it's just getting ridiculous. It's just getting ridiculous. I don't really know too much other things to really change, because you made a good point when it comes to the stage cautions. It creates the restarts, which, like I said, I'm for removing the stage cautions because I want the race to take its natural course. But at the same time, adding those stage cautions for restarts, at least at some of these racetracks, it really helps the race. Like a track like Indy, like a track like Indianapolis that we were just at. The most excitement we saw on Sunday was during the restarts, or obviously host of and Heim's little thing as well. But during the restarts is where most of the excitement was. And after 2 or 3 laps, it was par for the course. Get comfortable, because if you're in ninth, guess what? You're staying in ninth for the next 40 laps until you have to pit. You know, so I don't know. There's not a lot I think they could change. I definitely think the booth could bring a better energy to some of these booths, like you were mentioning with the Fox booth. I think Mike Joy does a good job. Doesn't do bad by any means, but could be better. We could have someone more excited, more excited in the booth. Like, I always remember Alan Bestwick. Now Alan Bestwick works for um, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, actually, and was actually commentating this past weekend's race on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway radio. And I think he does a great job. Adam Alexander does a great job. I think everybody over in Formula One, all their commentators and their whole team does a phenomenal job. I think IndyCar does okay. Maybe not as great as Formula One, but I think they do a pretty good job as well. I'm pretty excited about these I can't remember their commentators' names. Maybe you remember their names, Cory. But the commentators that we've been getting in the truck series that come from Flow Racing, those guys, they've been doing a good job. Whenever they're in the booth, I think they do a great job. They do a lot better than Jamie Little or any of those other people in the booth. So I think that's a big part of it as well. And then the shorter races, yeah, I think the cautions would help with the shorter races for sure. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not for per se, but I wouldn't mind like 5 or 6 races throughout the year get shortened to like 300 or 350 miles. Personally, it really just depends on the racetrack, though. Not any race could be shortened, in my opinion. But let us know your thoughts about all that in the comments. Shorter races. What can NASCAR do to improve the TV product? How do we just make all this more entertaining for fans? That's the overlying thing here, is like, how do we create a NASCAR TV product that's more entertaining for fans? Let us know your thoughts about all that in the comments. All right, before we do last word, And before we head out for the day, we're not making any weekly picks this week, but I thought I'd at least update the weekly pick standings post Brickyard 400. This is how the standings are looking at the moment. Cory currently at 64 points. Got 2 points this past weekend. He finished dead last with the Kyle Larson pick. Got a DNF for that as well, so got 1 point for that. And then, but he also did get 1 bonus point because his Hail Mary bonus did hit, as he did have Brad Keselowski finish 6th, giving him 1 point for a top 10. So 2 points for the week. So Cory has 64 in last. He's 11 points behind Tyler, who's in second with 75 points. He ended up picking Denny Hamlin, which gave him the weekly win. So that's 3 points plus Denny Hamlin's top 5 for finishing 5th exactly, giving him 2 more points. So Tyler had 5 points for the week, which puts him at 75 points on the year. And then I have 81 points. As this past weekend, I picked Tyler Reddick to win the race. Tyler Reddick finished exactly 10th, so he got me 1 bonus point for the 10th place finish, plus 2 for finishing second out of weekly pick. So 3 points for the week, giving me 81 points. So next week for our weekly picks will be Iowa Speedway, and the current standings is me at 81, Tyler at 75, Cory at 64. None of us have Hail Mary bonuses for next week. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of Hit the Pacecar here on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate a like, follow, comment, subscribe, share, do whatever you need to do here on the Pacecar Boys YouTube channel. We would greatly appreciate it. We have a couple of things to talk about. Pretty short show here today because didn't have any racing this past week. Don't got a bunch of news stories to go through, but we do have a couple of things to go through, and we'll of course preview Iowa a little bit. Unfortunately, no Tyler this week. I know Tyler took off a little early last week, but looks like it's just me and Cory holding down the fort here today. Cory, how are we doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Enjoyed the week off. I mean, I still miss NASCAR, but got to hang out with family this week. Got a new Kyle Busch shirt, loving it. So life's good.
No, that's a cool shirt. I like that shirt quite a bit. Yeah, this past weekend we didn't have any racing. I know the NFL is right around the corner, but we didn't have any NFL quite yet. College football too. No soccer or football. I mean, we did have MLS, Major League Soccer, but I don't really watch a lot of that. I saw the baseball imploded. You saw the baseball imploded, Cory? No one's watching baseball anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean the Dodgers own the league pretty much, money wise. So
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know
they
what
got
the point of that is.
they got like 2 pitchers on trade deadline. One of them was Scooble. I don't watch a lot of baseball, but I've heard that name before. I know he's a pretty big time pitcher.
Yeah, no, I mean they have $1 billion salary, dude. That they just keep spending money.
Yeah, I think I saw something yesterday where they have over $1 billion in like pushed off contracts that needs to be paid off, and I think second in that was like 100 million or something like. So they've spent 900 million more dollars than these other teams. Oh yeah, we ain't want. I'm still down to go to a baseball game though.
Yeah, Shohei Ohtani's entire contract is like paid in the last 3 years.
That's
Like it's a $700 million contract, and I think he makes like $2 million this year.
that's insane. That's so insane. Yeah, so there's not gonna be a baseball season next year. It sounds like. Good thing I don't watch a bunch of baseball. Cory, do you watch a bunch of baseball even, or not really?
I mean, I don't like to call myself a fake fan. I'm a Diamondback fan, but like I only watch when it gets interesting. I mean, I
Yeah, I
keep
feel you.
up with them every day, every other day. I can like look and see what they're doing, but like I don't actually start turning the TV on until like I don't know 10 games before the playoffs start. So
Yeah, I feel you. That's how I am with pretty much any sport other than football, and NASCAR. I only watch when it gets down towards the end, where it starts to get more exciting and we get into playoff time and stuff like that. That's when I get a little more interested. But this isn't a baseball podcast, so we'll still have work. We'll still have work, but I think baseball probably takes off next year. But let's get into some of these NASCAR topics now that we've gotten through the intro here. Let's get into some of these NASCAR topics. And the first thing I really wanted to talk about here today, We talk about a lot of young drivers on this show. We like to talk about the future of the sport quite a bit on this show, and we've gone through many names ever since we started this show. It's been about 2 years now. We've seen Connor Zilic, seen Corey Heim, Carson Hocevar, Brent Cruz. We have a lot of very talented young racers in our sport right now. And it looks like we might be adding one more who's been lurking around in the ARCA series and in the lower divisions the last couple of years. And I'm talking, of course, about Tristan McKee, who not all that long ago, I want to say when he was 14 years old, signed a contract with Spire Motorsports for the future, a development contract. And now he just turned 16 yesterday. And Spire Motorsports have announced that he's going to be racing the number 77 truck at Richmond here in a couple of weeks. My home racetrack. That's also Tristan McKee's home racetrack, him being from Williamsburg, Virginia. So a Virginia boy making his debut at a Virginia track, my home track. So that's going to be really cool for me to watch. And that's going to be cool for me to watch. Can't imagine 16-year-old Tristan McKee getting in that truck. Kid has a bright future. I remember him winning a Watkins Glen in the ARCA series last year. Very talented young racer. And Spire seem to be really on it right now. And I'm excited for this kid, Corey. I'm excited to see what this kid is able to do. It sounds like he's actually going to be getting the reins. I don't know if he's racing the rest of the season, but it sounds like he's signed up for a good amount of races for the remainder of the season in the Craftsman Truck Series. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what Tristan, the 16-year-old kid, can do. It reminds me a lot of Kyle Busch when he first came to NASCAR driving in the Truck Series at 16 years old. No, it reminds me a lot of that. Corey, how are we feeling about this? I know you don't know a lot about Tristan McKee, but 16 years old, getting your Truck Series debut at your home racetrack of all places, pretty cool for him.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I mean, I don't know much about him, but just looking at the stats, like he's pretty consistently always finishing in the top 10 in ARCA. He's got a couple wins and he has less than 10 starts, so clearly there's talent there. So, I mean, if he can keep it up and he's going into good equipment with the Spire trucks, so hopefully he does well. I mean, it's always good to see young kids get a shot. 16 years old and getting a couple races with Spire in the Truck Series is a pretty outstanding feat. I mean, doing it that young, getting opportunity that young.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and it really says how much the industry looks at this kid as being the future of our industry. And we're in an interesting part right now in NASCAR history right now where we're having a lot of superstars. Obviously, we had a whole bunch of superstars retire over the last 15 years, and I think it's been a while since we've had a bunch of just very talented young drivers come into the sport. This is the next generation of NASCAR drivers. Obviously 10, 15, 20 years ago, we got drivers like Kyle Larson and Joey Logano and Kyle Busch. We had a good influx of drivers there for a couple of years, but it's been a while since we've just seen a bunch of young drivers come into the sport. And we have Corey Heim winning races. We have Carson Hocevar competing for wins. Of course, he had his win at Talladega. Connor Zilic obviously struggling in Cup, but he seems to have a very bright future. Brent Cruz, he hasn't done all that much yet, but he seems to have a bright future. Same thing with Corey Day. You can maybe even throw Carson Quaffle in there as well. Maybe even his younger brother Caden, even though Caden hasn't gotten to the ranks yet. This next line of drivers, Corey, I'm just very excited about. Carson Brown. I know Carson Brown's going to get his debut here soon as well. Just a bunch of young drivers, Corey, coming into our ranks right now. It's exciting to see these young drivers come through.
Yeah, 1000%. I mean, you kind of named a lot of them. There's probably a couple that we're not naming, but there's a lot of up and coming drivers coming right now, and it's interested to see who gets pushed out, in the next couple of years in the Cup Series. How many people lose their rides? How many people's leashes are cut, because they haven't performed to what they should have, So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. These next couple of years, there could be a lot of turnover.
Yeah, there could be a whole bunch of turnover. I'm very interested to see what the O'Reilly series looks like next year because we're going to have a lot of young drivers out there. Obviously, we'll still have Brent Cruz and Corey Day out there. Looks like Carson Brown probably drives an RCR car full time next year, whether that's the 2 or the 21. Who knows with some of these other young drivers like a Tristan McKee? I know he's just now turning 16, so we'll have to wait a little bit. We'll have to wait till the second half of next year, but maybe they're able to get him into an O'Reilly car and a couple other drivers, some of these young drivers like Caden Quaffle and stuff like that. The future's bright. The future's bright, and I'm looking forward to see which of these drivers are able to be Cup Series drivers, Cup Series winners, and Cup Series champions, and who can create their own fan base. Because a lot of these, like you said, Cory, you don't really know much about Tristan McKee. Not a lot of, even I don't know a lot about Tristan McKee, but he could have a huge fan base here in a couple of years. Look at Hocevar. A lot of people didn't know who Hocevar was a couple of years ago, and now he's one of the most popular drivers in our sport. So I'm excited to see what this next generation of drivers is able to do. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Tristan McKee? Just turned 16 years old yesterday, but here in a couple of weeks he'll make his Truck Series debut with Spire Motorsports at his home racetrack of Richmond. All right, let's get into the next thing here. This next part, I wouldn't say there's a lot really to talk about here, but it's pretty exciting to have a lot of famous people, celebrities, other motorsports drivers get involved with our sport. And of course, I'm talking about Legacy Motor Club has brought in some new owners to the team, like some notable ones are Bryce Harper, Chase Utley, two. If you watch baseball, you know who Chase Utley and Bryce Harper is. Of course, Harper's still playing. We have a couple IndyCar drivers part of the ownership group now with Scott Dixon, Dario Franchitti. I would say both of those aren't big surprises, and even maybe a Tony Kanaan wouldn't be a big surprise as being friends of Jimmy Johnson, notable friends of Jimmy Johnson. So that's cool to see some of those guys in there. Guy Fieri, we already knew. Kelly Slater, a name I haven't seen in a long time. Famous surfer, to see him in here. Very, very interesting stuff, and I'm curious to see what other members of this ownership group might be, because Jimmy Johnson let on there's going to be a whole bunch, and this is only a portion of it, so maybe there's even bigger celebrities out there, bigger fish to fry. Who knows, maybe Tom Cruise is part of this ownership group, for Pete's sake. I don't know. It's pretty cool to see, because this also brings more eyes to the sport, I feel like, because then fans of these people, at least diehard fans of, like, for example, a diehard fan of Bryce Harper might tune into NASCAR now because Bryce Harper's part of the sport in a way. So it brings more eyes. It brings more publicity, I would say. And also that really helps Legacy Motor Club potentially get bigger because Legacy Motor Club are trying to grow on their own as well, Cory. How do you feel about all these new celebrities and personalities and sports personalities coming into our sport with Legacy?
It's exciting, man. I hope there's more. I hope there's a lot more. I mean, a lot of big names, right? Like, they gave Guy Fieri his own shout out when that was announced. They did the same with Darius Rucker. You have some big time celebrities investing in NASCAR in a way. And like you said, I'll harp on what you said, is like fans of those celebrities, maybe even if it's 10, are going to tune into a NASCAR race to see how it is, or how that car's doing, or how Legacy Motor Club's doing, and root them on, and maybe get sucked into the sport and fall in love with the sport. It starts off with something so minute that can pull somebody in because they get entertained one time. It doesn't take a lot, and they've only announced what, half, or I mean, it's a decent portion, but there could be more. You know what I mean? Like, who knew Morgan Wallen was sponsoring a car 2 weeks ago, or last week really, and it won the race. So it just takes like small investments like that bring those fans in and gets more eyes on the sport, which NASCAR desperately needs.
Yeah, we need to have more and more eyes on the sport, and we need to turn a lot of those casual sports fans into NASCAR fans, and that's a big goal of ours, and I think we're doing a decent job of improving the fan base right now. I think we just need to continue to move forward and continue that momentum, but that also comes with just how the racing is going, how the TV product is going. For example, like with some of these Legacy Motor Club celebrities coming in, like some of the new fans that might jump onto the Legacy Motor Club train, they're going to expect Legacy to do pretty well, for example, so we just need the right people to do well and the races to go well, TV to do well, and we'll continue to build up our product, I would say. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about this? A bunch of celebrity investors over at Legacy Motor Club. Of course, some personalities, some are just regular old celebrities. We have some sports personalities, former athletes in there, a couple IndyCar drivers, former IndyCar drivers, I should say, and obviously you have Scott Dixon, who's probably the greatest IndyCar driver of all time in there. So some interesting stuff going on at Legacy Motor Club and an exciting future for the team. Let us know your thoughts about all that in the comment section down below. All right, now that we've gotten through our news stories, like I said, not a lot to talk about this week. We're going to begin to move on to Iowa Speedway. Before we go through the schedule and the facts for the weekend, of course, I got to go through Larry's laps, as I'll take you a couple of laps around Iowa Speedway. All right, let's get into the schedule and the facts for this upcoming weekend at Iowa Speedway. All right, let's start with the weekend schedule. On Friday, August 7th, we have the JR & Co. 150 at 7 p.m. on Fox Sports 1, and that is the ARCA Menard Series plus the East Series. So it's a combination race of the primary Menard Series and the East Series. And then on Saturday at 11:30 a.m., we have O'Reilly Auto Parts Series practice, immediately followed by qualifying on the CW app. At 2 p.m., we have Cup Series practice on True TV, immediately followed by qualifying. And then at 5 p.m., we have the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race on the CW, and that is the High V Perks 250. And then at 9 p.m. on Saturday, on Flow Racing, we have the ARCA Menards West Series, and it's the Portland 112 at Portland International Raceway. And it'll actually be a combination weekend. So the ARCA Menards West Series will actually be there the same weekend as the IndyCar Series, which will be racing on Sunday at 4 p.m. on Fox. And then at 3:30 p.m. also on Sunday, of course, you have the NASCAR Cup Series, the Iowa Corn 350 powered by ethanol, and that will be USA Network, the first race for USA and NBC's portion of the schedule. So let's go through some weekend and track facts. It is the Iowa Corn 350, and the stages end at lap 70 for stage 1, 210 for stage 2, and it is a 350 lap event. Iowa Speedway, located in Newton, Iowa. It is a 875 mile, I should say, D-shaped oval, short track. The debate is yours. The first Cup Series race was just 2 years ago on June 16th, and that race was won by Ryan Blaney. And then last year's winner in the second race at Iowa for the Cup Series was William Byron. The notable entries for this weekend: there is no Truck Series. The Cup Series didn't have any open entries this weekend or different entries, but in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, you have Carson Quaffle in the number 1 this week, Ross Chastain in the number 9, Carson Brown making his O'Reilly Auto Parts Series debut. He's been heavily rumored to race for RCR next year. He's driving the number 32 for Jordan Anderson Racing. And you have Nick Sanchez in the 87. I would also like to note that Raja Karuth is in the 88 this week. And then let's look at the weekend weather report here at the bottom. Friday looks like we might get some PM thunderstorms. So some thunderstorms at night there. On Saturday, it's looking pretty good. A 10% chance of rain at the moment. And then on Sunday, 30% chance of isolated thunderstorms. So we'll have to see if that affects the race. And we have similar temperatures throughout the weekend. Roughly around 85 degrees is the high throughout the whole weekend. And then the low anywhere between 64 and 71 for the weekend. So keep an eye for those thunderstorms on Friday night and Sunday afternoon. All right, now that we've kind of previewed the track a little bit, gone through what to maybe expect from the weekend, just to give some thoughts on Iowa Speedway. Before Cory, I'll give some of my quick thoughts on Iowa Speedway. I've always been a big fan of this racetrack. It raced a number of years down in the O'Reilly Series and in the Truck Series before it finally became a NASCAR Cup Series race. I really like what Iowa Speedway does. They usually do a lot more for the fans than a lot of other racetracks, especially for those IndyCar races. Like, they go all out for those IndyCar races, and I would like for them to go all out for these NASCAR events as well. I just like the way the track is ran. I personally have never been there, and it seems like anybody that ever goes there always has a good time, even if the race isn't the greatest. Seems like fans that show up at Iowa Speedway always seem to have a really good time, and they always pack the house. So it deserves a Cup Series date, and I hope it continues to have a Cup Series date. And then I'm gonna get to the negative. Before a couple of years ago, I thought the racing there was really great, and I'm going to ignore the fact that we have a new generation of car. Let's pretend we have the old generation of car on the old Iowa surface. I think it would do phenomenal. I think it would produce a phenomenal race. But with the mixture of it being the new generation of car and it not being that great at short tracks, plus the fact of they did like a half repave. What was it, last year or the year before, where they did that like half repave where like part of the corner is repaved, part of it isn't. They kind of cheaped out, in my opinion, on it, and it ruins the racing. The racing there is pretty bad. I'm gonna be honest. I don't have high expectations this weekend with Iowa Speedway. I feel like it used to be more of a multi-groove racetrack. Now you just need to drive on the fresh pavement. And that's the line. The line is the fresh pavement in the corners, and it's removed a lot of the character from the racetrack. And if you're going to repave it, fully repave, because if they fully repaved it, maybe it could be a multi-groove racetrack. But with the fresh repave on some parts of the track, making it flat and smooth and very easy to drive, it's more gripped up. And then where it's not repaved, it's bumpy, it's not gripped up, it's a lot. The marbles go to the top of the racetrack, and it just becomes almost impossible to drive. Not impossible to drive, I wouldn't say that, but it's not a comparison from the bottom to the top anymore. It's not a multi-groove racetrack. I think it's going to be a lot about track position this weekend. I honestly don't have the highest expectations, at least for the Cup Series race this weekend. Cory, what are your thoughts on Iowa? I know you only have limited experience watching these races, but what are your impressions on Iowa Speedway?
It's mixed because I think from what I remember last year and watching the race that it wasn't the most entertaining race. A lot of it was based off track position and restarts,
It
which
wasn't the
distance
worst race, though.
are correct. Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was just a forgettable race, if I was to say anything about it. And then, but if you watch the highlight reel, it looks insane because there's a lot of battling, right? Because it's hard to finish a pass here, is what I remember, is
Yeah.
that you could battle for the lead for 20 laps. But with this car, you could be clearly faster than the car in front of you, but it's going to take you 20 laps to get by them just because of the way the grooves are and the way you can block with dirty air and all that stuff. So, I mean, I like Iowa. I think I'm not saying, oh, we should get rid of it. I liked it. I think it's a good racetrack. I just think it's not the most entertaining race. It's like I said, a forgettable one, but it's at least more entertaining than some. Like, it's not going to be as bad as Indy was 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
still going to be strategy, and then it's also. I mean, I think we can pray and hope the Goodyear's tires fall off more this weekend, like we always pray for. But yeah, that's not the track's fault. That's the car and the tires' fault. So,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I don't. It's hard to say something about Iowa. I don't feel any way about it. I'm looking forward to this weekend. Maybe it's because we had a bye week last week and it was Indy the week before, which was a snooze fest. So I'm excited. It's just I hope it's a little bit easier to pass this time.
Yeah, I could agree with a lot of what you said. Uh, I'll give it a little its flowers a little bit, Iowa. And you were saying before I say that though, you were saying that it's not really the track's fault, it's the car's fault. I would say it's mostly the car's fault, but them partially repaving the track, I think made it worse. Definitely didn't help.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I would say it made it worse in that perspective. But at the same time, I do think, just to give Iowa, now to get back on my original thought here, to give Iowa its flowers at least a little bit, one thing that this track can provide is potential moments. Like, I think there could be some exciting, entertaining moments in this race, but like Cory was just saying, I think the reason that those moments could potentially be provided in this event is because of how difficult it is to pass. So I can see For example, let's say Carson Hocevar and Corey Heim are battling for like, look, I don't think Corey Heim is racing this weekend, but let's just say he is. Let's say Corey Heim is racing this weekend, Corey Heim, Carson Hocevar start battling hard for third or fourth. Maybe you see them get into each other, wreck each other, whether on purpose or not, because of how hard it is to pass and how aggressive you need to be. So it could provide some entertaining moments. It could provide an exciting finish if we get a late caution or late cautions in this thing. It could provide that. And yeah, and I don't think it'll definitely be better than Indy. I'll say that. It'll definitely be better than Indy. I think we'll put on a better product than Indy. And I don't think it's going to be the worst race, probably not even one of the worst races of the season. But I think Cory put it perfectly when he said that this race is forgettable. And I don't want it to be forgettable because it seems like the fans have such a great time there. Iowa worked many years to try to get a Cup Series date. They built this track in the early 2000s. I want to say like 2006, 2007. Rusty Wallace helped design this design and build up this racetrack so it could be a Cup Series event. And it took them over 15 years to finally get Iowa Speedway on a Cup Series schedule, and they always sell out. So I would like to continue to see it on the schedule with a lot of the schedule talk going around right now. I want to see it on the schedule again next year as a Cup Series event, but you need to fully repave the track. The car isn't the best for it. It's just, yeah, like I said, like Cory said, I kind of expect something forgettable this weekend. I'm hoping we get some moments. I don't know if I necessarily want an exciting finish, because an exciting finish at Iowa probably means a bunch of cautions and a bunch of wrecked race cars at the end of the race, which is something I personally don't like seeing. But we'll see. We'll see what happens this weekend. We're definitely going to be watching no matter what. NBC takes over, Cory. USA Network and NBC take over. How are you feeling about that, Cory? I'm personally not looking forward to USA and NBC taking over, personally, just because of what we've seen over the last couple of years. How are you feeling about that before we move on?
I mean, I'm looking forward to having Lee Diffie back. I
Oh,
think
yeah. Lee
a
Diffie.
lot
Yep.
a lot about what makes sports entertaining is a good broadcaster that can keep you excited in dull moments. And Lee Diffie is really good at that. And that's honestly, like, I was rewatching the Iowa highlights, and knowing from what I remember last year and knowing how long a NASCAR race is and knowing it, oh wow, it's literally took 30 laps for Keselowski to get around Byron. But Lee Diffie the entire time is like keeping me entertained because I'm like, dang, this is action packed right now. When really I'm watching the same thing happen for 20 or 30 laps. So like I'm excited for Lee. I'm excited for NBC for that because they do a good job at making the dull moments exciting. And to piggyback on the last thing you said, I would hate to see a race where there's a crap ton of cautions and it's just remembered for the cautions. But the thing that can really be said about almost any track in NASCAR right now is we're one caution with 20 laps to go from making Iowa debatably having one of the best finishes of the year. And
Yep.
that's one of the things that's weird about this sport because we want it to play out naturally, but at the same time, a caution with 10 laps to go can make it the most interesting race of the year because how hard it is to complete a pass here.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've seen interesting over the last couple of years with this car, because I think we've had some really good races, but then we've also had some really nutty and honestly really unprofessional finishes, I should say. Not bad finishes, but unprofessional finishes. Like one thing I'll look at is what was it, Kansas, when Logano won? Was it Kansas when Logano
I think it
won?
was Nashville, wasn't it?
Nashville. I think you're right. I think it was Nashville. It's like that wasn't necessarily a bad race per se, but the way that race ended with caution after caution after caution after caution made us look stupid. But at the same time, it was a very exciting race to the checkered flag. So I don't want that. I want a race that's just entertaining because the race is entertaining, not because a bunch of cars wrecked and now we have a photo finish at the line. It's not. That's not what I want. I want a race that entertains me for 3 hours, not a race that entertains me for 15 seconds. You get what I'm saying, Cory?
100%. 100%. And that's the balance that NASCAR has to figure out with this car right now. It's like obviously focusing on safety and making it easier to pass, but it's like I know I think one of the things we looked as NASCAR fans is that we all agree Carl Edwards should be a champion right now. But
Oh yeah.
like you can't just throw cautions to throw cautions. We're not saying that, but a timely caution with 20 laps to go makes the race seem so much more memorable than what it is, and that's not like saying Iowa needs that. Iowa just needs maybe, I don't know, tire wear or something that makes passing just a little bit easier because you can run side by side for 20 laps. It's just you're way better than that car in front of you. You shouldn't have to take 20 laps to complete the pass.
Yeah, I hope we see a good weekend of racing. Hopefully, Goodyear is the savior. I hate that we have to count on Goodyear, and we've said it before that they're not supposed to be a superhero. They're supposed to be like an additive, and they're gonna have to save us. Goodyear are gonna have to save us once again. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about Iowa Speedway? Are you looking forward to this weekend? Maybe you're going to Iowa Speedway this weekend. I think it's in Newton, Iowa, so have a good time out there in Iowa for Iowa Speedway if you're attending. All right. That will lead us to the end of our show already because we're going to go through now our weekly picks, the finisher of the show every week. Just to update the points once again, Cory 64 points at the bottom, Tyler 75 points in second, I have 81 points in first. All of us have used our Hail Mary bonus. Cory will actually be picking first this week, Tyler picking second, and I will be picking third for this week at Iowa Speedway. So Cory, get us started here. Who's your pick to win at Iowa Speedway?
Watching the highlights, I didn't even know the guy I was picking was the pole sitter last year. So hopefully he starts well and finishes well and doesn't finish dead last like all my picks have been doing. So I'm going to go with Chase Briscoe to get a win this week.
All right, you heard it there. The driver of the number 19, Chase Briscoe of Joe Gibbs Racing, is Cory's pick to win this weekend at Iowa Speedway. And Cory, I think you also have Tyler's pick. Who's Tyler actually going to take this week?
Tyler is taking the guy he disgraced to start this year, thought was a scrub, thinks he should be out of the sport. No, I'm kidding. That's not what he said. But he's picking Tyler Reddick.
Tyler Reddick. They've those two have mended the fences, haven't they? Those two have mended the fences. I think Tyler's finally came around. I think Tyler finally came around on Tyler Reddick. I think Cory. He's finally come around on him. All right.
Yeah, no, he's actually good now. But now that Tyler picked him, he's gonna finish last.
Yeah.
So,
no, you didn't pick him.
Yes.
You picked him.
Yep. Hey, yeah, you're right. You're right.
You're right.
I literally called it with Larson last time too, dude. Pain.
Pain. All right, so that leaves it to me and my pick. I'm gonna take him while I can get him because I would like to save this driver for the next two races, but I think there's a good chance I won't be able to get him. So we're gonna take him now while we have the opportunity. We're gonna pick the driver of the number 20. Christopher Bell of Joe Gibbs Racing. He's my pick to win this upcoming weekend. So we all picked Toyotas. I think we're a smart bunch there for picking the Toyotas. So just to go over our picks one more time, Cory has decided to pick the driver of the 19 for Joe Gibbs Racing, Chase Briscoe. Tyler has decided to pick his namesake, Tyler Reddick, the driver of the number 45 for 2311 Racing. And then I have decided to pick the driver of the number 20 for Joe Gibbs Racing, C. Bell, Christopher Bell, to get the dub this weekend at Iowa. But let us know your thoughts in the comments. Who is your pick to win at Iowa Speedway this weekend? All right, and that'll actually do it for this week's edition of Hit the Pacecar. Very short episode this week. Didn't have a lot to talk about here. But Cory, anything you got to say to the people before we end up heading out?
Not much, really. Let's hope Iowa's a great race, man. I'm excited NASCAR's back. 1 week off is too long. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I hope all the teams and all the drivers have had a good little vacation there. I know a lot of the pit crews haven't gotten a vacational year because a lot of those pit crews that work in Cup also work in O'Reilly and Trucks, and of course, O'Reilly Trucks went to Rockingham earlier on in the year. So I'm happy that those guys are able to get a week off. But now let's finish it up. Let's finish up these last couple of months of the season and let's just race through it. So hopefully everybody enjoys Iowa Speedway this weekend. That will do it for this week's edition of Hit the Pacecar. We would greatly appreciate a like, follow, comment, subscribe, share, do whatever you need to do. But also make sure you're a badass today and get